how do you want to be introduced in all of this? Do you have a different name you want to go by? What do you want to do?
You can call me what you like.
Well, you tell me.
Just Darlene, I guess.
Okay, and then we'll also have Darlene here speaking to you guys about the Freedom of Information Act, the FOIA request, and the, what do you call it now here in Ohio? Open Public Records request, and how she's been able to navigate and execute an open public records request in an expedient fashion here in Ohio is where she specializes, and she's actually completing a course for the state of Ohio to make sure that there's nothing amiss in her education, which is awesome. And not only that, but she's taken it above herself, or upon herself, to go above and beyond the training that is so often inadequate through the state training. Many of you notaries out there realize that if you're a notary, they didn't tell you how much power you actually have. They didn't show you the all the little ins and outs of your duties, your rights, your titles, your obligations, and because of that, many notaries don't realize how much power they actually have and what their signature and seal means on documentation. So we'll kind of delve into some of that. As always, we do everything in good faith, with good conscience, for good reason. We're just here to help our fellow brothers and sisters ascend to the mind so we can take the corrective measures to correct the injustices and the malice that is being executed by agents and agency. One of the things I've noticed is going through this is that the oath of office is not the proper oath of office that is required by the federal government in order to be an agent and agency. And what I mean by that is, under the Sixth Amendment, Article 6, in the United States Constitution for America, it clearly outlines the oath that you're supposed to take. And it is further backed up by USC 4, subsection 101. And if that proper oath has not been taken with an affidavit sworn to under the pains and penalties of perjury, they do not, in fact, fill the office they allege to fill. So for many of us, we've always heard that, if they don't have a valid oath of office, then they're not really an officer of the law, and that is correct. They're actually pretending to be agents and agency. That's why they're acting as police officers, they're acting as sheriff, they're acting as president. It's all an act, ladies and gentlemen. It's a big soap opera. And to prove that, I've actually challenged a number of agents and agency to bring forward their verified affidavit in support of their oath of office and their oath of office, and many of them cannot do it. And when they do bring forward an oath of office, it's a statement that is foreign to what is required in order to actually fill that office and that seat. So when people tell you that all the offices are vacant, that is one of the reasons why they're vacant. They're not properly taking the correct oath of office. The next thing I want to talk to you guys about, when we're doing an open records request or a FOIA request, it's important to ask for the anti-bribery statement. It's important to ask for their oath of office and their bonds. It's important to ask for their letter of good standing and credit with the IRS to do business within whatever state you're in or on. Remember, the state of is a corporation, and then when you say, for example, Nebraska state, we're talking about two different separate entities, okay? And what we've learned about the exclusive jurisdiction of equity is it does not ever mix with the at-law side of things. It's oil and water. They're completely separate in every way and can never be conjoined, okay? So what they have done, the Jesuits, so brilliantly, is they have just manipulated things just a little through language. For example, I am Derrick, okay? But if I come into a court as Derrick, being as Derrick is not the same as being Derrick, okay? If I'm representing Derrick, it's an impossibility for me to be Derrick, right? So I am for I am because I am. And because of that fact, I grant the name to the court because it's a corporate fiction they're administering. And it's just a matter of discerning the difference between what's actually transpiring and what you believe to be transpiring. When we see judgments issued for monetary purposes, they lead you to believe what they're asking for, but in truth, there is nothing of substance in the monetary world. And what I mean by that is they put, let's just say, a symbol in front of some numbers, a numeric value, that really says nothing at all. And our objective is to always remain in honor and to provide remedy, but we need clarity as to what they're asking for. You see, they're very generic in what they're asking for because they want you and need you to presume and assume what they're asking for. But any knowledgeable man with questions would ask, well, what exactly do you want? Tell me the specie that you desire. One of the reasons they'll never tell you FRN notes is because the Federal Reserve is in fact private. So the next question becomes, what is your proprietary interest in me using private intellectual property that is privately copywritten and trademarked and privately owned by a group of 5 families, okay? And if I can get you guys all to mute out, that would be fantastic because I don't have the capability of muting you out myself. So if you guys just want to mute out, that'd be awesome. And at any time you can interject with your comments or your questions if the need arises. Thank you so much for that. So the Federal Reserve is a private organization, a private banking system, and we have to ask ourselves where they got the ability to manifest into existence their ability to create currency, their ability to create notes and whatnot. Well, the simple fact of the matter is if they have that right to do that, so do we, because the power to create can never be greater than the creator. And I'm hoping this is making a lot of sense to you guys. I'm just speaking real bland, real open. I'm not going to muddy the waters with legalese. I'm just talking about basic concepts, okay? So if they have the power to create an organization, to contract with said government, that's Title 28, 3002, 15A, you also have that ability as a private banker, as a creditor, as a creator, to create your own notes as well. The question becomes is how do we effectively put our currency into play? Most often it happens through a third-party intervener, which would be the car lot, the other banks, where they take our promissory notes and being licensed as brokers have the ability to negotiate those instruments, okay? We don't have the power to necessarily monetize those securities, they do. However, we can get them to perform with Form 56F, appointing them fiduciaries over the securities to handle the affairs and the business in the name of the beneficiary or on behalf of the beneficiary to make sure that what should be done shall be done. So I hope that provides a little bit of clarity there. And with that, I'll yield the floor and I will let Darlene take over expressing to you her acquired and gained knowledge. Keep in mind, none of us are alleging to have all the answers, ladies and gentlemen. There are many ways to skin this cat, and we thank you guys all for joining us. So, Darlene, I'm going to give the floor to you. If you just want to, you can talk about what we've been doing over here.
Alright. I am so not a speaker, so I apologize. Anyways, thank you, Derrick. This has been a hell of an adventure. I wrote a speech because, not a speech, but memos on exactly Ohio public records I'd like to go through a little bit detail of what they are, how they're used, who can use them, all that. So, of course, in Ohio, we have something called the Sunshine Law. Now, if you know anything about Ohio, it's Ohio Revised Code 149.43, which is the availability of public records for inspection and copying. Now, mind you, these are codes, so these are what they're bound by. So what you want to do is you want to turn it around and use it against them. So, to start off, I'm going to make a quote from Dave Yost, Attorney General, Ohio's Attorney General. Dear Ohioans, one of my primary responsibilities as Attorney General is to promote accountability from those who serve Ohioans. Mind you that this is basic law in every state. My office fulfills the duty in part by empowering citizens to become voluntary.
I know. Excuse me. Can I get you guys to mute out, please? Excuse me. Boy, some rude buggers, huh? Let me just do this. Let me just see if I can mute everybody out. Mute. Oh, this is horrible. Hey, if I can't get you guys to mute out, we'll just go ahead and close this meeting. It's very rude to everybody else who has joined, who wishes to gain some knowledge here. So, you guys call the ball. Either mute out when you come in, or we'll just shut her down, because it's extremely rude. Thank you. Carry on.
Alright, let me just restart that little paragraph. That my office fulfills its duty in part.
Stop.
Is there any way to mute that fellow out from your end of this?
I don't know who it is.
I'm on my phone doing the Zoom because my computer's taking a crap on me. So if I can get everybody to mute out, it's a mutual thing. We don't mind donating our time with our new gained knowledge to share with everybody. But I need a little cooperation on everybody's end. So if I can just get people to mute out as they come in, there's nothing I can do on my end from my phone. So.
Okay, because it's a call-in user number 1 on my end that's interfering with the call. And I tried to mute it, but I can't.
Right. Let me see if I can just mute everybody. Because this gal here, Darlene, has some incredible knowledge that works in every state. And it's important. Yeah. It's very important.
Does it work in Canada?
It would...
I think there's good concepts there. That's why I'm listening in.
Well, and the concept is just this. You know, how do you bring an adequate claim without having adequate intel? Vital records of a vital nature are needed. And so equity steps in, you know, and aids the vigilant who says, hey, I have rights, titles, and duties and obligations that I need from you acting as an agent and agency. You know, it's just a quid pro quo. You want my insurance license, registration, and proof of insurance? I want your license, registration, insurance. Okay? So they're concepts that work internationally. Okay?
But, right? So it's commerce, so everybody's got to be insured. It's in commerce.
That's right. So anyway, I'll yield the floor back for Darlene. If in the future people come in, if we can just ask them to mute out again. I apologize. My computer is kind of going to the wayside here. Darlene, go ahead.
Alright, sorry guys. Anyways, I'll continue. My office fulfills this duty in part by empowering citizens to become voluntary watchdogs through the use of a powerful tool, public records. As a former newspaper reporter and state auditor, I fully support government transparency and your right to know what goes on behind the scenes. This 2020 Sunshine Laws Manual, which the manual is to help you understand the Ohio Revised Code. Manual is assembled by my office Public Records Unit to be a one-stop resource on Ohio's open government laws, both so you know your rights and so public servants know their obligations. End quote. Now this is, I planned on telling you a little bit about the public records, who can use them, who they're good for, all that. So any person may request an inspection or obtain copies of public records from a public office that keeps those records. A public office must organize and maintain its public records in a manner that meets its duty to respond to public records requests and must keep a copy of its records retention schedule at a location readily available to the public. When it receives a proper public records request, and unless part or all of the record is exempt from release, a public office must provide inspection of the requested records promptly and at no cost, or provide copies at cost within a reasonable period of time. That just gives you an idea. And just to let you know, I'll show some of the record requests I've actually got. I'll show you a little bit as I talk. Okay, I've actually received oath of offices from officers, and I've done both verbal and written requests. I've done a written request, or excuse me, verbal request, which I was able to obtain all officers of Barberton Municipal Court, every single one of them, or police station. I've been able to receive those. I've actually done verbal requests, and I've actually been able to receive all their certificates, every single certificate that they have. There's another certificate. I've done little town chief of polices out there. I've done judges, gotten their oaths. More police officers, which I've gotten many police officers. I've even gotten clerk of courts oaths of offices. So when it comes to collecting open public records, I go back to 2018 that I've been doing this. And now I am in the middle of taking classes to become certified in it. So, okay. Anyways, let's see. What should I read next? The Ohio General Assembly has passed a number of laws that protect certain records by requiring of or permitting a public office to withhold them from public release. When a public office invokes one of those exemptions, the office may only withhold a record or part of a record clearly covered by the exemption and must tell the requester on what legal authority it is relying to withhold that record. Let me get this going and I'll show you some more I got. The Ohio General Assembly has passed a number of laws that protect certain records by requiring Did I just read that? Oh, I apologize. I'm reading the same thing twice. Okay. Okay, a person aggrieved by the alleged failure of a public office to comply with an obligation of the Public Records Act may choose to either, 1, file a complaint against the public office in the Court of Claims, which Ohio does have a Court of Claims, and 2, file a mandamus lawsuit against the public office. The Court of Claims procedures were established by the General Assembly in September 2016 to provide an expedited process for resolving public records disputes. Okay, here, I'll show you guys more that I have been able to obtain. Okay, here's the definition of public records. The Public Records Act applies only to public records, which the Act defines as records kept by any public office. When making or responding to a public records request, it is important to first establish whether the items sought are really records, and if so, whether they are currently being kept.
Hold on, ask him to mute out.
I don't know who y'all are with that, but can you mute out, please?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Playing steady, no mistakes, no major mistakes. Oh, yeah. I'd say we're fine, yeah.
You just going to mute your line.
Hey, yeah, please. Thank you. Anyways, the records, and if so, whether they are currently being kept by an organization that meets the definition of a public office. Now, you guys gotta keep in mind what a public office is. Well, they go by public office under Ohio Revised Code 149.011A. A public office includes any state agency, public institution, political subdivision, or other organized body, office, agency, institution, or entity established by the laws of the state for the exercise of any function of government. So, now some public offices are examples, public hospitals, or wait a minute, excuse me, I messed that up. Okay, let me just start from what the Ohio Revised Code 149.011A. Public office includes any state agency, public institution, public subdivision, or other organized body, office, agency, institution, or established entity established by the laws of the state for the exercise of any function of government. But an organization that meets the statutory definition of a public body, see Opens Meeting Act, Chapter 1A, public body, does not automatically meet the definition of a public office. This definition includes all state and local government offices, and also many agencies not directly operated by a political subdivision, such as political departments operated by private universities. Examples of entities that previously have been determined to be public offices are some public hospitals, community action agencies, private non-profit water corporations supported by public money, private non-profit passport administrative agencies, private equity funds that received public money and are essentially owned by a state agency. I'm sorry, I got cottonmouth going on. Non-profit corporations that received and solicit gifts for a public university and receive support from taxations. Private non-profit county, ombudsman offices and county emergency medical services organizations. Private entities can be public offices if there is clear and convincing evidence that that private entity is a functional equivalent of a public office. That entity will be subject to the Public Records Act. Under the function equivalent test of a court must analyze all pertinent factors, including whether the entity performs a governmental function, and 2, the level of government funding, 3, the extent of government involvement or regulations, and 4, whether the entity was created by the government or to avoid the requirements of the Public Records Act. I don't know if you've ever heard of quasi-agencies, but a private entity, even if not a public office, can be a person responsible for public records. Records under Ohio Revised Code 149.011G, the terms records includes any document, device, or item, regardless of physical form or characteristics, including an electronic record as defined in RC, Ohio Revised Code 1306.01, created or received by or coming under the jurisdiction of any public office of the state or its political subdivision, which serves to document the organization, functions, policies, decisions, procedures, operations, or other activities of the office. So, with all that being said, I'll go ahead and show what I have on my computer at the moment.
Yeah, you won't be able to show it to the people that are watching on Zoom. You're not going to be able to see that. You can speak about it, but you won't be able to share it. So just be clear in what you're talking about, and that will help them be able to comprehend it. And what she's talking about, as far as being in the United States, or interacting, I should say, rather, with the United States, what she's talking about here is these revised statutes and codes. Although Ohio's are not reciprocal in other states, the other states will have something similar to it. So it's important to know, let's just say you're in California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, let's just say you're in one of those other states or interacting with one of those other corporate bodies or entities, you will be able to go into their revised statutes and codes and find similar, if not verbatim, the language being used in order to get your open records request. So it's really important. Remember, when we do a service of process, and we as a man or a woman are making a claim, when we're making that claim, we have to have the sufficient evidence to support the claim, or the claim falls flat on its face for being deficient or not having the evidence in support of the claim. So one of the reasons that we do the open records request is for body cam footage. We want their oath of office to prove they had standing in the capacity which they were alleged to be operating in. We want to know that they got their assumed business name recorded at the Secretary of State's office, their trade name recorded. And the reason one of the reasons we're looking at the assumed business name certificate is they actually have a metal, for law enforcement in particular, they actually have a metal placard on their chest most often. And we'll just use my nomenclature for example. It would be D. Gonzalez on that metal placard that is worn on a uniform if I was an agent in agency, right? Well, that shows intent to do business under a business name, to assume business name. However, if that assumed business name that I'm using on the side of the highway to fleece and extort people isn't registered as an assumed business name, I am now doing business under an unregistered, fictitious business name, which does qualify as a crime, ladies and gentlemen. And you can prove that they intended to do business in said unregistered, fictitious business name or trade name because they had the placard made, okay? And that shows intent. They intended to do something with that name, albeit unregistered with the Secretary of State's office, okay? So this is just fundamental basic things to evaluate and look at. So when we're doing our open records request, we're wanting to know if they've got a trade name registered with the Secretary of State, an assumed business name registered with the Secretary of State. We're wanting to see their foreign registration certificate. Now, a lot of people say it doesn't apply, and when you read the code, it only applies to lawyers. Let me be very, very clear about this. Sheriffs, police officers, state troopers are making legal determinations on the side of the road, and I can testify to that with firsthand knowledge that they do that because I've caught them up in it in court. And specifically looked at the state trooper and said, did you make a legal determination on the side of the road? And he said, well, and then the prosecuting attorney objects right away, and the judge comes in and says he wasn't making legal determinations. And I look at the judge and I go, well, then what are we doing here if he wasn't making legal determinations on the side of the road? There's no victim, so there's no crime, there's no injured party. So how are you making these legal determinations? And, it just becomes very apparent what they're doing, okay? It's all a scheme and artifice to extort from you and your family to unjustly enrich themselves by generating securities in your good name and getting you to abandon them. Or, worse off yet, get you to enter into an agreement, a contract through manipulation of language and make sure that your ass sits in a jail. That's the asset that sits in a jail while the securities mature, okay? So I'll yield the floor back to Darlene here, and she'll continue on with the open public records request and how she's become extraordinarily efficient in collecting the evidence and the data needed to support your claim.
Thank you, Derek.
Yeah.
Now, I want to mind y'all, I've never been denied a request. Now they will deny that they don't have that request, but I've done this enough, many businesses, and you can get whatever you like. So I'm just showing examples right now of requests that I've been able to obtain. You call 911. That call goes to a call center, and I was able to obtain that call center's log. So I'm showing it on my Facebook.
And what you're talking about in here, guys, I'm gonna help her be able to show you on Zoom what she's talking about. Bear with me 1 second here. I'm gonna move you guys around this brilliant little setup that we have, and hopefully you guys will be able to. I don't want you missing out. All right. Can everybody see the screen there? All right. I don't know if they can see it. I'll move it in. Okay, go ahead.
You're gonna hold it.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, I was able to obtain 911 calls. I've been able to obtain a sheriff's oath of office. And of course,
Okay, now let's stop with the oath of office for a minute.
okay.
It says, I, Steve Berry, swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution and laws of the state of Ohio, the Summit County Charter, and the codified ordinances of Summit County, and will faithfully and dutifully or impartially discharge and perform all duties incumbent upon me as Summit County Sheriff according to the best of my ability and understanding. Now, this oath is the incorrect oath to fill the office of sheriff on the de jure side, ladies and gentlemen. And the oath that we are talking about is found in USC 4, subsection 101, where it says IAB, and I need to pull it up real quick because I want to quote it. Let me just pull it up real quick for you. USC 4. And it's under the flag and seal seat of government. And then we go down to chapter 4, the states. And we open it up and we go to 101 and we open it up. It says, every member of a state legislature and every executive and judicial office of a state shall, before he proceeds to execute the duties of his office, take an oath in the following form, to wit, I, A.B., do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States. That's the oath they're supposed to be taking, ladies and gentlemen. It's very simple, eloquent, easy, right? This is the oath that they are derelict in their duty and not taking, which means their office is void. They have no standing. They're not credible, okay? So that's what she's pointing out here when she's doing the open records request. And again, if we could get everybody to mute out, that would help out tremendously. I am doing this on my phone, so I don't have the ability to keep you guys all in line. If you could just mute out for the benefit of everybody else, we will continue on. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Yep.
Alright, let me show you. Okay, this is one of mine. I just got this here yesterday, or maybe day before. Anyways, I just went and did a public records request because I tried to file a complaint against a sheriff department, and the officer came back stating that there was no complaint, which we have to exhaust all avenues first. So that's what I did. They're investigating their own. So anyways, I went ahead and did an open public records request for a complaint that I supposedly done, but I didn't do it. So actually the sheriff and the officer did it themselves, took it upon themselves to do it. So anyways, I'm not going to go into detail about it, but I was able to obtain the complaint form. I was able to obtain, let's see, all their information, all my information that they've used. Now, actually, let's see. Here's their log reports, I guess. I was able to obtain all that from the sheriff's department. Daily log report. I'm not really gonna let y'all dive into all this right now. I'm just showing you guys examples of what I've been able to obtain.
But let's talk about for just a moment why it is so important to have these records, ladies and gentlemen. There are times that agents and agency allege they're on a certain edge of town as they're calling in. Every 45 minutes to an hour, the dispatch reaches out, says, "Hey, 1047, where you at? What are you doing? Let us know you're okay, you're alive," right? And in a period of about 5 to 10 minutes, if nobody responds, they'll call out again, and the third time they'll call out again, and then what they'll do is they'll put out a BOLO or an APB looking for their agent and agency to find out where he's at, because he may be in trouble. He may have fallen asleep at the wheel. Who knows? And so they will actively start to look for their agent, the last known whereabouts where he may have been or reported to be. Now, what we have found in diving into some of these records is there are times they allege to be at a certain location and have witnessed a certain crime take place, only to find out that they were blocks away from where they actually stated they were and couldn't have possibly seen the event they laid claim to, okay? So this is why these records are so important. It's the evidence you need, perhaps, to be able to liberate yourself from their complaint, okay? They don't have a verified claim. They have a certified complaint. And there's a difference between the certified complaint and verified claim. A man makes a claim, an agent and agency on behalf of his principal or her principal makes a certified complaint, okay? And so it's important to comprehend what's really going on. And so that's what she's showing you, the importance of these records. And as we started to delve in to the records that I have obtained here in Ohio with Darlene's assistance, which I am very gracious for, we started to find out that how many of them were actually compliant with their certificates at this point in time? Out of the 2 officers we're investigating currently, are any of their certificates for using their lethal or non-lethal weapons valid right now?
No, sir. They've been expired since about 2016-17.
So since 2016 and 17, their certificates have been expired. They're now a danger to the public at large. Who knows if they're qualified anymore to do what they're doing. Now, many people think, oh, well, that's not that big of a deal, guys. I mean, they were certified once. The certificate should still hold weight and merit, right? But here becomes the issue. Would you go to a neurosurgeon who hasn't been qualified in the last 2 years, that doesn't have a good certificate of standing to perform neurosurgery? Would you go to a mechanic, per se, who isn't licensed any longer or, may not have the certificate anymore, to where the point where insurance may not cover the damages that they cause based upon the fact that they're derelict in their duty and don't have the proper documentation to execute their duties? Does that make sense? So it's really important when we're doing these record requests. One, we're proving that they don't have standing, okay? And we're finding out in what capacity they're actually operating in, okay? And then we're finding out whether or not they're generally liable, personally liable, or commercially liable for the way that they're conducting themselves. And it's very, very, very important. One thing we've also discovered in our open records request, everybody's supposed to be independently bonded and insured in order to operate in commerce. But there's one other thing that they could be. They could be independently wealthy, and because they have a sustainable bank account that could cover harm, damage, injury, and loss they may cause during their commission of their duties, dare I say, that also suffices in some instances. Not all, but some. For example, many people don't realize you don't actually have to have insurance on an automobile. You could be independently bonded. You could create your own bond. You could also just be independently wealthy and have enough in a bank account that it's irrelevant. Remember, they're asking for financial stability. They're asking for if you're financially competent to handle your affairs and to cover all damages or loss or injury you may cause while operating, right? And that's kind of another topic, but that's the importance of this open records request, because it lends to the fact that they're not competent or certified any longer to do their job as they allege to be. So they could be taking their income under a false pretense.
If you want to stay on.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Is there a question?
I think he's on 2 calls.
No worries. Greetings, Brother Keith. How are you?
I'm great. Yourself?
We're having fun down here. We're really
I've been watching, brother.
We're really.
It's a great setup to have that knowledge to walk into places like that. And I feel for you, brother. You're in a dangerous spot. So let's not be light about this.
Right.
And realize that this is the importance of the knowledge. Is even if it's just a record search, guys, it is dangerous. These people get funky. And they start calling each other. As soon as you walk out of that door from requesting a record, all of a sudden you're being surrounded. So it is very important to know why we're doing this, what is behind doing this, and how to do this. These officers, like Derricks said, with the name tag, and they're running around doing business without being registered, they're the low man on the totem pole. They're the ones that are sought out or sent out to sit you down. It's all the others that are sitting there supporting him without the certification and doing business in the wrong name that are behind him. And as soon as we peel off clothes and show his nakedness, everybody else behind him is naked too.
Yes, in their line of work, in their capacity for what they're doing, shit runs uphill, okay? Because the people who trained them had a duty and an obligation to ensure that said people were qualified to do their jobs. For example, the governor appoints the judges in the communities, okay? And he's qualifying them as the qualifier to do business in said state, in said counties, which means he holds the general liability and personal liability for the actions of those actors, okay? Because he qualified them. Many people think they vote for judges to be in the position they're in. I'm here to tell you now, judges are appointed. They're not voted in, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, your status makes the difference of whether you are an elector or a voter. And if you're an elector, that's one thing. If you're a voter, I'm telling you right now, your vote ain't worth cockamamie. It ain't worth nothing. It don't matter. All you did was show them that you have willfully, knowingly, and intentionally entered into a contract and volunteered to be part of their construct, okay? And now you're subservient to them. And that's the importance of understanding the difference between the two masters at hand. There's the Heavenly Father, the Creator, and then there's this beast system that was derived by man that follows Roman civil law, Roman civil equity, and it is all by contract, okay? And even on the private side, contract exists. You can engage in commerce on the private side, and also you can engage in fair trade, and it's important to understand the distinctive differences between them. So our other guests have shown up here. We're going to let Darlene continue on expressing the importance of an open public records request. So go ahead.
You want to fix your camera?
Go ahead.
Can I fix your camera?
You can do whatever
me
you
to?
need. Yeah, it's not on here.
All right. So I went ahead and put in a records request for Derrick. Actually, I put in quite a few at the moment. I've gotten responses back. Now, I know I don't know why I can't flip this around, but if you guys can kind of see it and get the gist of it. Actually, what I requested was quite a bit from them, and I'll read the list and show you guys what I've accumulated here. Alright, I start out, this is me, okay, writing for public records request. Good day, public servant. This request is being sent to you under Ohio Sunshine Law for the request of all information numbered down below. Ohio Revised Code 149.43. Under Ohio Revised Code 149.011, public office is responsible for its own records. Private entities can be public offices. And then I wrote down what I wanted. So I went ahead and asked for badge numbers, oath of offices, certificates, credentials, body-worn video cameras, copies of report numbers, letters of certificates, registration statement pursuant to the Foreign Agent Registration Act of 1938, bonding company information, a lawful warrant, and let's see what else. Oh, the rights, titles, duties, and obligations that they're supposed to be performing. Anyways, I've requested a lot, and we got a lot. And like Derek was stating, that these we got all their certificates of completions. This one here is a bunch of certificates, as you can see. Just to give you some ideas.
What I'd like to mention real quick here.
Yeah, Keith.
But when we're looking at these certificates, and we see certificate after certificate after certificate, and there's no document in between. These certificates operate just like a promissory note. There is supposed to be an affidavit attached to them. When they send you a certificate over online or in the mail, and that's all you get is the certificate, then I don't like to use the statement argue, but I would pose that the certification is false because it's not supported by an affidavit.
And I agree on you with that, because what I've gathered is a lot of these numbers on these certificates do not exist. I've actually researched that. We've gathered. Now this is for 2 officers that we've gathered, and I'm sorry to go through them, but there's like the one file has 90 some certificates. So these are just all. Did you see that one? Look at that.
Yeah.
I posted it on my Facebook. I just passed it. Where is it? I just saw it.
And they do that. They swamp you with a bunch of certificates like that, and that all that does it's imposing that they got a lot of them, so they must be good. No, they just stockpile them and shove them in there Like I said, most of them are no good anyway.
Right. I mean, I can handwrite a certificate to my son right now for being a good boy.
I make up my own damn birth certificates for people.
Yeah.
Come on, let's be real.
Well, I don't know where it just went, but I posted on my Facebook that they even have certificates for, oh, where'd it go? What's that word that they call sovereign citizens? Yeah.
Sovereign Citizen Education Training Course.
Yep. Bingo. Now, this is what Derek was talking about, that I was able to obtain about their handguns. Now, that's showing you the caliber, the duty, the ammunition. It gives all his test scores. Okay, how he does. But all the way at the end, date tested 10/31/16. He passed. Tested by. Look at the expiration date on this one is 7/26/2019. That's example 1. Here's example 2. And there seems to be quite a bit of these that they are expired. Here's another one, 2019. But I found some of these documents to have been expired in 2016.
Yeah, and most certifications, folks, in regards to public offices and stuff like this, they're renewable every year or 2 years. Some have 4 years, but it's important to realize that these certifications, not one certification that's good for a lifetime, like Derek mentioned earlier. You don't go to college, become a neurosurgeon upon graduating from college.
And
It takes a series of events throughout life as you build your career to become a neurosurgeon. Those are certificates along the way, and once you become a neurosurgeon, doesn't mean you're done with certifications. There's new technology and everything. That's what the medical thing. Same with your law. That's why they call it practicing. There's new things that come about. That's why they require the certifications or the renewals and the liabilities. When they're just blatantly flipping out certificates like this without affidavits, that is bullshit.
even their beanbag guns are expired. I mean, every single one of these are expired. Here's a Glock 22, expired 2017. So, oh, someone has interference. Oh, oh my. Anyways, this is what I've accumulated, one of them. I've also accumulated, I don't know how to turn these pictures around, so I apologize. Wait. Nope, that ain't it. Oh, bummer. Anyways, I even got their training commission, their school calendars. I'm not sure how I was able to obtain that, but I got it. They sent it to me. Let's see. I think this is the one. I was trying to find the one. Yeah.
Do you suppose we could actually get that training material for the sovereign citizen certification?
I bet your ass I can find it.
I bet it would be most appreciated.
No doubt. I'll work on that.
Love you, girl.
Love you too, Candy. But yeah, anyways, I've been able to obtain records from attorneys, their cards. I've been able to obtain records almost in every department that you can think of. All you gotta really do is know an email address. And once you get an email address, then you got it. So, I don't know if you guys want to know anything else, specifically about all this, but I need a drink of water or a coffee. And I'm the only one in here at the moment. So,
Tony, please mute.
and and just to let y'all know, I've never had to go to the drastic measures of doing a FOIA. I've always been able to get everything obtained just through records, even evidence in cases. You're doing discovery. I've been able to get information through discovery. Someone has interference.
Tony, please mute.
Do you see that? Temporary custody of juveniles. They get certified for that.
Tony, please mute.
I'll kind of skim through these while I'm waiting.
Can you not mute him out yourself?
Well, he's on his phone. He doesn't have that access, I guess. But I'm going to get with him when we get done here and let him know how to do that in his Zoom settings.
Yeah, look, the email that she's talking about, this is a very viable way of getting what you need, and without ever going in their building. This should be shared out with people. And the email, once you have these email addresses, with the COVID going on, they will not even charge you for the information, because you can go in person and get this material freely. But with what you've got going on, this is to your advantage in a manner of being able to send back to them, no, I can come get it for free, but because of this, it would be in everyone's best interest to send it, and you will see a quick correction from them, and they will send it. So yeah, this is something that needs to be taught to people, and irregardless, because you can stay out of their venues.
I've been able to obtain so many. I mean, here's the certificates for the officers that I'm helping Derrick with. But I've been able to obtain many files, many documents, and this is kind of like my profession right now is me doing all this for people that don't know how. And, in court and out of court, because like I said, that's what discovery is to obtain the evidence.
And Trinity posted a comment in the chat section about implied certification theory and the False Claims Act in regards to key TAM lawyers. And that's what I was mentioning earlier. If their certification isn't valid, they've got all these people backing them up, supporting them, even though their certification is valid or isn't valid, or their business name isn't registered and stuff. And what that goes to is these state actors, they have the responsibility, the liability, the obligation, whatever you want to call it, to abide by the federal regulations under the key TAM concept itself, because the United States is the one that allows the states to use their banking system, their monetary system, their fiat currency, and the states are subject and liable under full faith and credit to that part of the United States government. So if the state actors aren't qualifying their their certifications and stuff appropriately, then that's a case that's being brought against the a case that can be brought against the state with the United States as the plaintiff and you as the American providing the information and the evidence so that you don't have to be involved in all. That's what the key tam is. You just provide the evidence.
Let's stop. Let me ask a question here. I would like to lead everyone up to something here if I can. What I'd like to lead you up to is what we hear coming out about the process going on down at the hospital and the very pledging of the babies that's going on, and the information shows us that the mother is not the informant, that the mom or dad is not the grantor of the baby. And who does that leave granting, and how, and by what way of operation, by what rule, by what law are they granting the babies into the trust where they're the beneficiaries? I digress.
Well, I'm going to show you exactly where that comes from, guys. Everybody can see my screen?
Hold on, let me turn this around, Keith, and I'll show my Facebook. Okay.
People can see my screen, though?
Well, I can tell you real quick how. They're using statutes as laws to dictate the hospital report the event regardless of what mom and dad want or any family member wants. And an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And if we allow the babies to continue to be put in trust that they are making themselves beneficiaries of, we have a problem, Houston.
An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure is exactly right. And can somebody answer me? Can you see my screen?
I do.
Wonderful. This is 42 U.S. Code, Section 1395X. And as our brother Rio there, that's Ken, right?
Roger that.
All right, Ken. Ken pointed out that it starts out at birth. And moms, when you go to the hospital and you enter that information on the registry, what they do is they put down that you are entering the hospital in a spell of illness. Now, if you're having a natural birth, is that a spell of illness? No. But they define it as spell of illness because a spell of illness means that you have been provided inpatient hospital services. That is the definition of inpatient or spell of illness. And this is what they use when you go to a hospital to have a baby. They are determining that you're in a spell of illness and that they need to provide care for the baby.
Well, they can take that crock of crap and stick it where the sun don't shine. And what we're about to release is information proving that the hospitals and the Bar Association are in collusion with their statutory crap that doesn't, wait a minute, supposed to apply to us and left for government and public employees. What you got going on, contracts, birthing contracts, moms? This is especially to moms, dads too. When you're doing a birthing contract, that contract stipulates what can and cannot happen. And I'm sorry, the hospital as an institution or a boundary or any of the things that they want to try to satisfy the idea that they are allowed to continue to pledge these babies to this ancient system.
And I'll tell you how far it goes back, guys.
Yeah, tell us. Hit it.
You know, in the Bible it says he named them Adam. Did he give any of us the last name? Or was that somebody else that decided to call it John Smith?
The cognomen.
Yeah, everybody knows him but as John, but he's the Smithy. And so he went on to another community and everybody called him John Smith.
Hey, can I just interrupt real quick and just say I've also received open public records for audios, videos, officers, courthouses, hearings, all that. So I'm done, you guys. I just wanted to finish up. That was all.
All right, guys.
All right, thank you, dear.
We're going to jump back on here. Our guest speakers have shown up. that want to talk to you guys about some things. Again, none of this is to be construed as legal advice. We're doing this. If I can get everybody to mute out, that'd be appreciated.
Hold on, Derek. Billy Collins, can you please mute?
All right, we can get everybody muted out here. Greatly appreciated. We got some guest speakers here to testify with firsthand knowledge of their trials, tribulations, what they've done, the results that they yielded from it. Again, none of this is to be construed or coffered as legal advice. We're here in good faith, with good conscience, for good reason. We're here to help our fellow brothers and sisters ascend to the mind. So without any further ado, do you want to start off first?
Yeah, I'll go.
Present to you Harry. And Harry's going to speak briefly with you guys and talk about a few subject matters.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, so I want to give you a little bit of information how I got started in all this. Got attacked by the police for robbery and held me in jail for 105 days for something I didn't do. That was in 1990. So y'all can see how long I've been doing this. Too long, really. Got 32 deputies fired, made them build their jail. I just wowed them beyond belief, I think. They turned around and let me right out of the jail immediately. You had to be in there to file for it to be good. So I started helping people with traffic tickets and had no idea what the hell I was doing. You know, but I found out that when you look up a definition, it gives you that other nugget you need. So when you get a pile of nuggets, and you get more nuggets, and you get more nuggets, you get more respect, because your mind, body, and soul have taken in what you found. And if I don't know the level of people that are listening, but it's really my duty to give you things that's going to cause you to go further and to have better understanding about who you're up against, what's going on, and what you can do about it. If you don't know anything and you absolutely know zero, all you have to do is start reading and looking at definitions. Now, that's so broad that that's 1 million, 2 million, 3 million things and about 85 miles of shelf space for legal books. The system has 85 miles of shelf space with these books. I've even owned a bunch of them for a while. The reason these things are so important to know the massive amount of bullshit that they have is because they're just all liars every day of the week. And they're trained to lie, they're trained to do things a certain way, kind of like a doctor. It's very, very similar. He's going to do a certain surgery, he's going to do a certain procedure, and next thing you know, something bad happens and you have a heart attack. He sets you up, just like the police are going to. The police are only talking to you to get you to give them your truth so they can turn it upside down, do it backwards, and then you've committed a crime according to what they've discovered in their minds. And they'll write out their report that you told them this, and then when you want to argue, they say, well, you told us this, and that violates this section, which is bullshit too. Now, codes, ordinances, and acts are not law. There is no laws. And they all act like they swear under the Constitution like that really matters. None of that matters. So in about 1972, 1973 era, they switched it to an administration to administrate animals. So when they see you, they're first-class citizens and we're labeled as second-class citizens. So that means that person, if you ever respond to person, well then you've admitted you're a corporation. You're admitting that you're playing their game that they set up before you were even born. So then you have to back up and you have to understand that they have written it backwards, they've taught you backwards, and they do it backwards, but in your mind, They're looking at you like you committed a crime when there's no victim. So these basic things, anything that you hear, you want to write it down. If it's the first time you've ever heard of a certain definition, let's say avoiding or evading is the difference between being free and going to prison. Avoiding is legal and evading is illegal. And if you research those terms to a reasonable degree, let's say seven steps, you'll be more educated than anybody you run into, because nobody will do that. Even if you don't know anything, you're flunked out in school like I did. With my 1,800 wins, I studied 25 plus years after high school because I felt stupid in school because the teachers wouldn't help me really. It was all about sit down, shut up, and ask to use the bathroom. That's not a free country. It's really not. So my whole agenda really is to get people to understand the strength is in those little nuggets that you find. If you find out that a certain definition makes you commit a crime, I have people all the time call me, and they're like, well, I need to file this sovereign stuff. I'm like, click. Because sovereign, they can kill you. They have certificates and videos all over the country. I looked. And each police department got a certain amount of money for funding to do a sovereign citizen video. And sovereign citizens' instructions on how to treat you when they meet you. That you're super dangerous and that they're really allowed to kill you if they're scared. And they've killed people just like me across the country that's done videos. And they never had a gun or a weapon or anything. They just said they were scared because they labeled them sovereign. So if they ever label you a sovereign citizen, you have to stop them and educate them right there. You have to say, sovereign citizen doesn't exist. That's an oxymoron. There's a sovereign which owns the land, and there's a citizen. If you want to be any one of those, they can kill you, and they have a procedure for your ass. And they can do whatever they want. If you explain to them that they've just threatened to kill you, and would they like to redact that statement, and it'll be no harm, no foul, that you will forgive them. Because now you're in fear for your life, and you should be in fear because they're really allowed to kill you. So it's very critical. And across the country, it depends on who you are and what you look like. If you may have a better chance depending on how you look or what you drive. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from people that I've been involved with. It's drastically changed for the people that I ran into because they hear what I say. And definitions is so important. I can't even tell you. So now what I want to do is I want to reverse all of your thinking, and I want to do stuff backwards so you'll understand. It's funny, huh? So what they did was, and what they do is they create a persona that they're the good guy. And they're going by what their training is, which is a little different than what we're taught in school, just so we're not on the same page. So when they meet you and there's a confrontation, you think much different than they do. They're playing by corporate rules and you're playing by man rules. Well, you're playing by dum-dum rules because they didn't really teach you were a real man. They taught you that you were a U.S. citizen or American. Well, if you're an American, you could be from South America, North America, Canada. You can be from all those places. So that's bullshit. You have to determine who you are. Now, the little study things that I think that are important, I'm going to go over this little list I put together, and hopefully you'll have some greater insight about things, and maybe the excitement that I get when I look at these, and I've read these, and I'm a real damn good, probably an expert on them. All the cops' ass I've whipped, and all the courts and the judges and everything. I've had them run out of the room so many times. But just so you can get an understanding of what I'm really trying to say. Like on the money it says, in God we trust. Well, how is that inferior? That's their version of the truth. In God we trust. That means that it's similar to, okay, I'm going to give you my truck here, and all these things are very important. Are you going to put gas in it? When are you going to bring it back? Who's going to be with you? How far are you going to travel? all of those things, that's similar to In God We Trust. It's very weak and inferior. It should say God we entrust with an E, E-N-T-R-U-S-T, because entrust means, okay, here's my truck. Whenever you want to bring it back, go ahead and bring it back. You know, I'm not asking for gas. I'm not asking who's with you. I'm not asking when you're ever going to even bring it back. That's God we entrust. That's what it should say on the money. So through life and schooling and even cartoons and things like that, we've been taught that what they say is supposed to, that's what's supposed to happen. They mentally want to get you into a position, and they're using inferior language. There's so many different languages in this country, I can't even begin to tell you how many there are. There's the language that when the waitresses at the restaurant take your order, they have their own language. The newspaper office, they have their own language. The mail people for the post office have their own language. So there's multiple languages everywhere. If you look into the rules and why they have certain languages and what their definitions are is very critical. So even back in the day, the word bad used to mean good. I don't know if anybody really remembers that. Then it went to my bad, right? So they have done memes. It's M-E-M-E, if you look that up. It's social engineering, or it's a type of programming that they want to put this little message out there to get it in the back of your mind so you'll go tell everybody else. Because it's all based on drama and bullshit, because every time you get around those people, they mix it up, like they're mixing up chocolate in a cup. And they try to cause controversy, so then they can correct the controversy or monetize your action when you get involved and they take control. It's a mental control type thing. So if you have chaos, then they can have control, and you can exert commercial energy, because you don't understand that they've turned you into a corporation, after you came out of your mother. So there's other things too. Not only just single words or memes or definitions or phrases that they put out into society to manipulate people. Say for example on a mortgage, the way they wrote a mortgage, it's kind of hilarious when you know how they did it. You sign up for a mortgage and give them all the documents and jump through hoops, and then they show up at the signing, the closing of the property. They have a document that they're going to have you sign. And it's going to be written in past tense, so it's written backwards. And then in the buyer's covenant in the mortgage, it has where you gifted the house to the bank or the mortgage company right off the bat, and you didn't read it, you still haven't read it, it's in your damn closet in a file, and you still haven't read it, even to this day. So in the buyer's covenant, you give them the property for free, and you agree to pay 2.5 to 3 times the value of the property in interest and cost. And then they photocopy it at least 3 times, so they'll get 4 times the value. And I have a friend that works for Chase Bank that's the head person that actually processes the mortgages and makes sure they're correct. And when I explained to them on Christmas one time, they kept shaking their head more and more and more that what I was saying was true. Now, they're the kind of people opposite of us. They wouldn't want to do this and be able to beat the bank at these things, because they actually work for the bank. So it's kind of interesting to get someone's opinion that's actually there on the ground doing it. Now, the other part about the mortgage is when you go to closing, you look at your promissory note. It's really not a promissory note. And this is not really about mortgages either, but it's not really a promissory note. It's a promise to pay and a note. And what happens is when you sign it, they don't sign it. So then you have to look at the elements of that note, and that's going to show you that it's really a check that you just endorsed, and that they will endorse on the back, and they will monetize your actions. So it's all bullshit. So if you can see that that's backwards, then they make assumptions that you're going to be assigned agent, you're going to give them You're going to give them power. They're actually going to be an agent. You're going to assign them to be agent. So it's like they believe they have the power to do those things according to all their little certificates and things like that makes them look official because they're educated in that area. That's why they got the funding for the sovereign citizen thing, and they did videos. And some police departments across the country, you can go right now and find their videos where they explain everything about how to treat sovereigns. You're not a sovereign, you're not a citizen. If you are, you're going to run into big problems. What you are is a real man or woman, probably on the land and not lost at sea. Yes, they surveyed the land in 1938. There's markers all over the place. If you go look for them, you'll find out they really did survey the land, and they put us underwater, and they call us vessels of the United States, and they're allowed to kill us. Unless you exert your position and get educated and become a real man or woman. So, one of the last things I have is when they do whatever they do in their official paperwork, they certify the complaint. So you want to look up certify and you want to look up complaint. Oh, and it's got the word the. Now, the reason the is so important is it's a very important thing that you understand this. In the Bible, it's 29,218 times the word the is there. So you might want to look up the word the, and don't ever assume you know, because that word's the most important word in the Bible. The thing you want to see done, or you want to demand that they do, not request, but demand, that they verify the claim. Because verify and claim, and there's the word the again, are totally different things, and you're giving them the power when you walk in there. If you don't rebut the presumptions and you don't understand what you're doing, they're going to win, because it's magic in there. But if you become a good magician and you learn all those little nuggets and all those little tricks that I'm telling you, you will kick their ass so bad it isn't even funny. I try to stay out of there personally, but when I do go there, they remember. They haven't forgotten 30-some years later what I did to them in 1990. Trust me. So now there's a couple of other things that I'd like to close out in explaining how the radar gun works, the polygraph test works, and the breathalyzer bullshit test works. And then you'll see what I'm saying. And if you get into a subject and you research that subject, you can find similar things that I'm explaining, and it'll be easy because you'll have a method in your mind from the way that I've done my life and my research. You'll also be able to take this away from. We're trained with the radar guns. They have one official officer come and say, and he takes one officer in the department around the block, and they park, and they point the gun at the car, and he says, "See how I did this?" And one officer tells the other. He says, "See how I did that?" He said, "Now pull the trigger on the gun." And he pulls the trigger on the gun, and there it goes. They're going 35 miles an hour. So if you understand that when you pull the trigger on the gun, you move approximately that far, a quarter of an inch. Boom. See that? Well, how far is the laser beam on the other end when it moves a quarter of an inch on this end? How far is the beam to one side or the other? Once it moves 1/4 inch here, how far is the beam out there? Well, it's 80 feet at 500 yards. It's 80 feet off. To me, that's bogus, because clearly you could go down the highway with cars side by side. And there's been tests done with Volkswagens and semis together, and they did the Volkswagen, and the speed of the semi was what was really calculated. So they're lying, and by technology they know that it's a lie. Now the polygraph test. The polygraph test is a funny thing. They tell you to sit still. They put these little straps on your little things on your finger, and they put a strap around your chest, and then as you're breathing, they will only let you answer yes or no. They will not let you explain why you're hooked up to it. So this is the trickery and how they do it backwards, and they get you to believe it. So they ask you questions that deal with your head, like, do you like your mom, do you like your dad, do you like your sister? and things like that. Then they'll deal with a heart question or a mind question. They'll say, have you ever taken anything without paying for it? Now, like for example, have you personally ever taken anything without paying of it? Anybody out there? Because if you say you haven't, they're going to flag you as being a liar. That it got you and it busted you, whatever it is. You know, then what they're going to do is they're going to unhook you from the little electrodes on your finger and the strap around your chest, and they're going to unhook you, and they're going to say, now, what was it that you took without paying for it? Now, if you don't say, well, I took a pen out of my teacher's desk back when I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade, or I took a 5 out of my mom's purse, and she said to take $1, and I feel horrible, you know, they're going to mark it down that you're guilty, that you're lying. Then what they're going to do is they're going to tell you failed the test. And they're going to say, see this line right here on this graph? It goes up and it spreads right apart. Right there it is, you're lying. You're not telling the full truth. Now, you're not hooked to anything at that time, and you don't understand because it's so stressful. When you're there, you're thinking, man, you did do what they're saying, but how are they going to prove that? So then they'll get you to admit you did it just by the stress of you believing that the polygraph caught you. Now, if you say something like, I don't know, I don't care, your machine's messed up, you better have it go checked, and you get irate with them, they're going to put down it's inconclusive because they can't tell if you're lying or telling the truth. It doesn't matter what they say, they can't tell. So if you can see the backwards ass game they pull on you there. Now the breathalyzer, one of the most funny after you understand about the breathalyzer test, it really is the most funny one. Now you can go in a bar and you can drink, say, 2 or 3 beers in, let's say, a half an hour, and you can walk out, get in your car and drive away and get pulled over right then. They can be watching the bar and you get pulled over. Now, they can give you that breathalyzer test, but they don't really want to give it to you right then, that immediately. They want to play this little game that they've all got together because first, you're probably drinking, you're probably drunk, so they can play this on you. They'll want you to walk the line. They'll want you to, count backwards, 1, 2, and count backwards, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, and they want to see you fumble, and they want to get you inside your psyche, in here and in your mind, like, oh, I just messed up, they caught me. But in reality, there's a certain level of, alcohol that can be in your body legally without being able to be arrested for it. So if it's a 0.08 or a 0.9 or something like it is here, and you had, let's say, a beer, and it was 2 hours ago, you're not going to register or bury anything on there, and they really can't get you. So they know they've had people trick them before. They come out of the bar, you had 3 beers, you're going to probably blow under the limit because you don't know how it works. Now, how it works is, in your air, your alcohol content within a 2-hour period will top out. So what I just said was, if you had a beer, and you get tested, say 10 minutes later, say you pick up a beer and you drink it, okay, and then you put a breathalyzer in your mouth and you blow in it, you're almost going to blow nothing. If you don't drink any more beer and you sit there, your alcohol content, let's say after a half an hour and you take the breathalyzer, you're going to see it goes up to 0.02 or 0.03. Now you're not drinking a beer. So then you wait another, say, 20 more minutes. And then you breathe in it again, it's going to be a 0.07. Never drank a beer. Okay? So, if you drank 3 beers and walked out of the bar and they pulled you over and they stuck breathalyzer in your mouth, you may pass. If they sat there, which they do, and they'll talk to you, they'll make you walk the line, they'll have the pen, you'll follow the pen with your eyes and not move your head and all that stuff. And they mess around and they wait on the record to come because they got up close to you, and almost nobody puts gum in their mouth. They can smell the alcohol. You almost can't hide it. They'll wait until the record gets there, which is approximately 45 minutes to an hour. Mm-hmm. Now, if you drank, say, 6 or 8 beers, and now they're holding you beside the side of the road and the lights are flashing, you're thinking, damn, man, if you're taking me to jail, take me to jail. Well, that's not the game. The game is to let you sit there for that approximate hour to an hour and a half or so they can get you to the station and they can give you the real breathalyzer test that will blow over the limit 99.9% of the time. It'll blow over the limit now, and then they'll say, if you don't sign this, that you're going to take this, we're going to get you for the DUI and everything, and then you're going to lose your license automatically for 2 years. So see, they're kind of twisting your arm. So then you say, okay, and then you sign it. Now they're allowed to use everything they find because you agreed and consented by your name, and they're going to monetize your actions. And they got you because you signed. If you don't sign, and they're going to get mad at you, and they're going to make you look like the worst person in the world, psychologically. If you don't sign, then, because you know it goes up in your air, and you don't sign, they're never going to get you for the DUI. They just can't do it. Now let's say you get to that point where they're wanting you to sign, and you play along, and they're really mad, and they're running in and out of the booking room, and then you say, well, I'll take a blood test. Well, here's the funny thing, ladies and gentlemen. The alcohol content goes down in your blood in a 2-hour period. So after a 2-hour period, it does this. In your air, it goes up within 2 hours, and in your blood, it goes down. So that's why they make it, in their minds, they're making it fair, because you could take the test that's a blood test and it could go down and you could actually pass the test and not get a DUI. So it's always a dual thing that's going on, always a dual function, something for you and for against you. Like you can buy postage stamps in jail. You can also put postage stamps on documents and pay the tax, and then they're in dishonor because they didn't pay the tax. You see what I'm saying? So they always give you that out, you just don't see it. It's in front of your face. If you read definitions, if you look for the backwards ass stuff, and it's there. And their oath, and this will be the last thing, their oath is actually written that they swear to uphold the Constitution of the United States, and then they swear to uphold the Constitution of your state. When in reality, it's the other way. They're supposed to uphold the Constitution of your state, and they're supposed to uphold the Constitution of the United States, but it's actually written backwards. And some documents we received the other day, it actually shows that very thing, where they did it backwards. So you have to be in a great sound mind, get sleep, eat correctly, drink correctly, and your mind will think a certain way. Study when you're awake. Lay in bed a little while and dream a little and think. Your mind is clear. You will find the answer. And if you use these little nuggets, and as you study and you find these terms, and you look it up and you look very closely, you will find the things that I'm telling you. And I hope this gets you somewhere in life, and I hope that this is a good study principle for the people out there that are listening to this. This is very important. These are the things they don't want you to know. They don't want you to know the truth. You're not allowed to do the truth. They done established that it's the truth. It's the truth, nothing but the truth, and they've already established that. And if you start talking about the truth and you don't know what these things are, they're going to discredit everything you say. They're going to do anything they can. So that's what I have for you for today. I'm sure we're going to turn it on to somebody else here in just a second. And I'm Mary, and I hope you enjoy the things I have to say.
Can I interject with one thing?
Go ahead.
I tell you guys the truth. Just recently, I was arrested for OVI. I'm not a drinker. I don't drink at all. Alcohol is just not my thing. Anyways, I found out that the officer arrested me without a warrant or anything, took me to a hospital, now because I'm partial paralyzed, I had to self-cath myself to urinate. So this nurse is in there violating me, watching me, making sure I'm actually catheterizing myself. Well, come to find out that I dropped the urine. Of course, only thing on there is medicine I'm on, which is not a controlled substance, and marijuana. But they can't prove at the time that I was operating a vehicle while I was intoxicated, because that's all they had. So the officer, while I'm getting my urine test, he fills out this document, has me sign it, which I signed it under duress and everything, and he turned it into the BMV. Tried to get my license suspended. So what I did was that I wrote the BMV after reading this document. That in this document it states that all the information needs to be filled out for the suspension of your license. Well, I wrote the BMV. I'm like, hey, why are you suspending my license when I can show you evidence of the police body-worn camera that there were no two witnesses to any crime I've committed, and because on it states that you need witnesses. Anyways, I was able to fight it. I was able to, the next day they told me that they dropped all the claims of having my license suspended, and it's back until 2025. You guys just got to learn to read the documents.
Right.
Read what you get, whether it's through public records, whether
Right.
it's through an officer, whether it's a ticket. Read.
Yes.
Reading means reading.
That's a 1% answer, because only 1%ers would do something like that. They would look at the definitions and they would figure out what the plan is, and they would go do it right now. We're not talking next week or next month. Right now are the people that win. So that's really, really important. I seen her eyes light up when I started talking about that DUI stuff. But I'll give you all back to Derrick here for a second, and we'll talk to you soon, hopefully.
Go ahead and introduce yourself. You can just give your first name or a letter.
Terry, appreciate it,
No
brother.
problem, man.
Hi, my name is Jeremiah. I wasn't sure what we were going to be doing today, so I didn't bring anything with me. All I'm going to talk about today, and there's someone in the Zoom, Kristen McClanahan, that's also had a lot of success with the stuff that we do. And it's important for us as a community to understand that no one's going to fight your fight for you. This is a one-on-one battle to the death. You can't be a hero and be a punk at the same time. If you're gonna tuck your tail between your legs and you're not gonna talk and you're not gonna assert yourself and you're not gonna stand your ground, then don't waste your time. This isn't for you. If you have trouble retaining information, that's what notes are for. Take notes, write things down. You can't wait until the day before you have an issue to begin to arm yourself, because again, this is a serious matter. This is how they have hijacked our people. And by our people, I mean people who are born with less than $1 billion in their account and their families don't own corporations. Okay? If you're poor, then the only person that's going to fight for you is you. There's never been a person of means executed in the United States. That's because there is justice for the rich, and then there's justice for the poor. And obviously, none of us are rich. None of us are going to have wealth and connections fight for us. So we have to fight for ourselves. And that means you have to have knowledge, because knowledge is power. If you want to lay around and watch NFL and eat Cheetos, then you're going to reap that. You sow that kind of life, you're going to reap that kind of life. That's the kind of, whatever you put in your brain, whatever you feed yourself knowledge-wise, when you get squeezed, that's what's going to come out. So what I have had a lot of success with child support, and some criminal things, and what Kristen's had success with, and I don't know, can they see this board?
Actually, I know
We can see it, but we can't see any writing on it.
Okay, so
yeah,
Video up, so.
they both
So-
can see it.
everybody's heard about the 12 presumptions. I'm not a good speller. How do you spell presumption?
PRESUMPTIONS.
Okay, so the 12 presumptions. The reason that this is an important thing to understand is because of the maxim of law. An affidavit unrebutted stands as truth. So if you have an affidavit against you,
Can you write bigger?
I'm not a good writer, so it probably won't help.
I will,
Can you?
I will share the 12 presumptions of law with everybody. It's actually on my Facebook wall. So just hold on a second here. We're just trying to get everything organized. We kind of threw this meeting together on the fly to help people.
So, okay, can everybody hear me? So this is very important what he's writing. The 12 presumptions of law is where they automatically assume and presume that you are a non-compos mentis. That means that you're basically an idiot. And you don't know anything, you don't understand anything because you're poor. There again, that's poor justice for you versus rich justice. So, if you don't do an affidavit of rebuttal, then the affidavit that they've already submitted saying that you're non-compos mentis, it stands as law, it stands as truth. Anytime an affidavit comes against you, you have to rebut it. It doesn't matter what you think, what your attorney tells you. Look up the maxims of law, because everything is commercial. In commercial private law, anyone who goes before a court and files a claim and says that you did something, they do it in an affidavit or a claim as the claimant. And that stands as the truth until you come in at some point somehow and say, hey, whoa, 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 this isn't the truth. So if you have a judge presuming that you're an idiot and that he's your father, he's your daddy, and he's going to take custody of you, that's why the judge says take him or her into custody, because he's acting as your parent because you're a belligerent moron. So step one is debasing all of their affidavits. Anything that they presume or assume over you. You want to set the record straight. So you're starting off on strong footing. See, I've tried to litigate cases with no paperwork, not filing anything, not doing anything. I've had limited success with that, depending on the courtroom I was in and how corrupt the tyrant was on the bench. So, but when I filed things, I won every time. If I didn't file and I didn't set the groundwork, then I had, it could go either way. So you always want to make sure that you have a solid foundation. Solid foundation is you're your own keeper. You speak for yourself, you think for yourself, and you defend yourself. So start with the 12 presumptions of law. Then, because all of this ties into a trust that was created for you, because in law, for you to give up a right, you have to receive a benefit. So the Social Security Administration created the Social Security Administration and the Social Security Trust so that they can give you a benefit, a retirement benefit, a chicken in every pot. So if you take from that, then you sell your rights in contract. You contract away your rights. There's only two ways to lose rights. You contract them away, okay, or you commit a crime that actually has a victim. Okay, so that means you rape somebody, you beat somebody, you steal something, you break something. There's an actual victim. Any other crime that you commit that there's not an actual victim, then it's the state versus. Typically, if there's a victim, it's the people versus. Okay, and that's kind of an easy way to tell if you really did something bad or you just kind of broke some kind of administrative rule. So always want to take the 12 presumptions off, and because of the trust, you want to do an executor position or an executrix position. Because that's what they're doing under the 12 presumptions of law, is they're entertaining a position called executor de sanctore. So it's executor de sanctore, by legal definition, it means a imposter, a fake. Okay? And another thing they try to do, and because it's all witchcraft, it's all Baal worship, it's all magic, is they try to convince you that you're a human being and that there is no God. Because if there is no God, then you have no creator endowed rights. And if you're a human being, you're a monster, you're a facsimile of fake, you're not a living soul, you're not a man or woman, then they can do whatever they want to you. So you defeat the executor de sanctore with the 12 presumptions of law, affidavit, rebuttal. And then you become the executor or executrix of your own estate, of your own little trust there. Now this has limited success, but what it proves to them, and this is something that is not a silver bullet, but what it does is it's a part and parcel of a bigger process. It shows them that you understand that there is a difference between what they created and who you actually are. Because they gave you a number, they gave you a bill of lading, a birth certificate, and they gave you a trust, and they gave you benefits so that they could steal your rights. Now, James Alger Fee, which is a federal court judge, had a thing in the belligerent claimant where he found that the eye cannot see what the mind does not know. So if you don't know a specific law or specific right, then you don't have it. Then it doesn't pertain to you. It's not for you. So the more you educate yourself on the legal processes that they use, and the laws, and the maxims, and the codes, and your rights, then the more it applies to you. So think of it like levels of a video game. At the very beginning, the very genesis of your legal issues, you need to understand that they're operating in maxims of law, they're operating in commercial private law, they're operating in all kinds of shady, like, almost like Ponzi schemes. Because what they're wanting to do, what it boils down to is, there is no money. Money only has value because you believe and you think it does. So the government, in a conspiracy with the Federal Reserve, the IMF, says, okay, how do we make people need money? Taxes, fines, and levies. That's how they do it. That's why they criminalize everything commercial. So that you can't go to the court and trade in chickens or silver or gold to pay off your fines. Oh no, they want Federal Reserves. So that creates a need for money. Your taxes, if you engage in commerce and you have an income, and you for some reason want to pay taxes, you're an idiot, you want to be a 16th Amendment slave, you have to pay those taxes in Federal Reserve notes. You can't go to the IRS and say, look man, I have these silver coins or these gold coins or whatever, can I pay my tax debt? They're pay it first.
14th Amendment citizens.
14th, yeah, 14th, yeah, simple way. But right after the 13th Amendment. By the way, read the 13th Amendment, people. The second line of the 13th Amendment is, you can be a slave if you get convicted of any crime. Then the state can make you a slave. The only thing the 13th Amendment did was make it so that you can't own a private slave. But the government can own you as a slave. That's absolutely 100% right there, black and white. And the other thing is, now, you don't hear a lot about the Declaration of Independence. This is something people don't hear a lot about.
Corporations can own slaves. Corporations, government's corporations own slaves. I've got their DUNS number. We got all that. I'm trying to discern what government you're speaking of when you say the government can own slaves.
Okay, so the governments of the world are actually all in one accord. Okay? Look up the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. The International Monetary Fund is where they all do their banking. Okay? Every country is in a giant scheme to control all of its people in a staged WWF match. Think back to when you were a kid and like Macho Man would come out, oh yeah, brother, and he's going to kick the crap out of whoever he was fighting, right? And they already knew who the winner and loser was going to be. But they do that to keep everything us and them. Everything is us and them. There is no us and them. There's just us. Without us, there is no them. All these people at the IMF, North Korea, China, Russia, all the places they tell you are your enemy, they're all at the IMF. Okay, the entire world is in debt. Okay? Where'd the money go? In debt to whom? Okay? I'll tell you who they're in debt to. Nobody, because it's all a bunch of fake Ponzi fiat crap. And your belief is what makes you the slave. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if you live in Germany or you live in the United States or you live in New Zealand. It's the same government. Okay? Most of these governments have a bar association or a British accreditation registry. Now, before it became the British accreditation registry, it was known as the Temple Bar. Bar in Hebrew means son of the law. Okay? Now, if you take it and you go even further, a temple of the sun. Okay? And it wasn't the sun, S-O-N, it's S-U-N, because sun in Hebrew is B-E-N. Okay? B-A-R is the sun. So it's all sun god worship, Baal worship, it's all a bunch of weirdo crap. But back to what we were talking about, the way to defend yourself, the way to keep yourself free from this stuff is, and this is a Supreme Court ruling for people in the United States. This doesn't apply to necessarily people in other countries, but here, the Supreme Court has ruled that the only way that the government has jurisdiction over you is through what's called a nexus of contracts. Okay? So you go to the government, you want to get married, you get a marriage license. You want to go buy a privately owned piece of property and use it, oh my God, you better register it with the state, you better get a license. That's how they get you. You go in and you willingly stand in line for hours and create contracts with these morons. Now, when you sign, the reason you sign for these things is because you're giving your sign of nature, your signature. You're consenting to all of the bylaws and all of the backdoor bullcrap that goes along with that benefit of being able to drive. Because remember, they tell you, driving is not a privilege, or excuse me, it's not a right, it's a privilege. Privileges and benefits in law is how you get somebody to sign away rights.
And it comes with blind adhesion contracts all day long.
All day long. Now, you can either choose in your mind and in your heart to be a slave to the contracts and a slave to the system, or you can choose to be a free man and woman who educates his or herself on everything is commercial. It all is just like in any pirate movie you've ever watched. Okay? For a pirate to engage in business on the seas with another country, they would have parlays. They would have a parlay and a parlor. That's why you have parlor rooms. They would have parlays. And that's where you could meet up and you could discuss business. Now, for you to be able to do business from one port to the next, there had to be confidence in that system. Because you didn't want to necessarily engage in commerce in Hong Kong and then go to, let's say, Singapore, and then all of a sudden the rules change and your wages go down and you're making a different amount of money. They needed to make everything homogenous. They needed to make everything the same unilaterally across the board. No matter what port you're in, no matter what country you're in, it's the same. And that's why you never really understand the court you're in or the laws that are being used against you. Because you're thinking constitutional rights, you're thinking USC, you're thinking all these codes and ordinances and statutes of the United States, when really it's international commerce law. So what that means is there has to be contracts, there has to be consent, there has to be a meeting of the minds. That means that no one's allowed, okay, under 12 maximum law, yes, if a man can be tricked, so be it. Okay? Because that person chose not to educate themselves or dig into the contract. But prior to that maxim, if someone asks you, hey man, we need to discuss this contract, then you have to give them full disclosure. See, a lot of you folks, when it's okay to contract, you need to contract. Okay? In this world, it's a fallen world. People sin, people lie, people cheat, people steal. How you keep people honest, it's not what you say, it's what you write. So if you get something in writing, you may have something. If you just say something, you have nothing. So that's what contracting is. You're getting things in writing. Okay? So when you're contracting with these folks, actually read the contract. Actually talk to them. Say, hey, what's in it for you? What's in it for me? Does that make sense? Can they hear me? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not a tech person. So that's what this all boils down to. This all boils down to, are you going to stand up for yourself? Are you actually going to engage your mind in what's happening? Because if you don't engage your mind, because listen, everything goes from your mind to paper to reality. Okay? You will something, you think something, you want something, okay? Then you make a plan to get it, and then you do it. And it's that way with anything. So if you are being talked to by a police officer or by an agent, you need to understand that they're operating off of a plan. They have a plan as to why they're there and what they want to accomplish.
They're holding court.
They're holding court with you. When they're talking to you, they're trying to get you into a contract. They're trying to get you to affirm something, agree to something, consent to something. Yeah, and get you to verbally or physically agree to what is happening. So the only way out of that is to understand everything is a negotiation. Everything is offer and acceptance. If they offer you something and you just shut up and sit there, then you've accepted it through either acquiescence or tacit admission. You cannot be silent. Huh? Did somebody say something? Oh. So it's very important that you guys understand tacit admission and acquiescence. If you don't understand those two concepts, you can get in a lot of trouble. A lot of people in the United States think that they have this Fifth Amendment right to be silent. Okay? You really don't have that right because you can't defend yourself by just curling up in a ball and laying there like a slug. That's not how you win a fight. You win a fight by fighting back. That's how you win. So you actually have to speak. You actually have to engage. Because if they just say something and you just stand there, then you're silently agreeing. You're not fighting back because you agree. So anytime someone is saying something, an officer or an agent or a judge or an attorney or an agency, you always want to engage them. Don't take your presentment that you get in the mail and just throw it away.
The best way to engage is by asking questions. If you make statements, the onus of probandi falls upon you for making the statement. We always ask questions. Our 6 best friends are who, what, when, where, how, and why. Where did you get authority? Where's your delegation of authority? How did you obtain it? When did you get it? Why do you have it? Who gave it to you? Your 6 best friends. Okay?
That is 100% true, because guess what really, really helps out in court? When you're in court, ask the judge and the prosecutor to see their law license. Say, I would like to see that you guys are qualified to be in this room, because they'll never give you their oath. Well, some people are able to get the oath of office. I've never had any luck with it. They run away. They recuse themselves. They're not going to give you their oath of office if they can't. If they could possibly get around it, they're never going to give you a FAR registration. They're never going to give you an oath of office. They're never going to give you any kind of paperwork that you ask for.
But let's quantify and qualify as to why they will not give you any of that. Because it's imperative to understand the separate jurisdictions that are running concurrent, okay? You can hold your court while they're holding their court. And their court does not outweigh your court. In fact, your court is higher than the Supreme Court. Because the Supreme Court is nothing more than an opinion from 3, 4, 5, 6, up to 9 judges that are never going to agree wholeheartedly clean across the board, and you don't have to accept what they say, okay? So it's important to understand this is a jurisdictional thing that he's explaining. And the jurisdiction that they're in, they absolutely have a right to do what they're doing, okay? And it's a matter of not acquiescing by tacit agreement, by your silence, because the second you walked into the room, the presence of the body waives the error in the name unless you notify them that you're not the defendant. Okay, you're actually the co-beneficiary to the claim being brought against you or against your entity. And you have to separate the estate from the man, okay? Walmart is just a piece of paper. It's a concept that is written down. The building is not Walmart. The building will always be the building. Walmart is a commercial concept and construct that exists on paper and paper alone. Okay?
So that's really good that we're all here. So you guys are getting like whatever it is that I forget to say or I'm neglecting to say or I don't know, someone else can kind of fill you in on it. But it's very important that you understand, 1, no one's going to fight for you. 2, everything they say is a lie, it's a trick, it's a scheme to get you in trouble. Because once they get you in trouble, then the fines, the levies, and the fees start to come into effect. And that's not where the real money is. That's just what gives them the facade, the veneer of an above-board operation. Because the pissant little nickels and dimes that you're giving out in fees and penalties, that's not where the money is. The money is in the bonding, the securities behind the case. That's where the golden ticket is. That's what goes on behind the veil. That's what it's all about. They don't give a rat's patoot that you sped. They don't give a crap that you smoked crack. They don't care. What they care about is making every aspect of life illegal. Didn't say unlawful, said illegal. So that when you do it, you're a commercial criminal because you made all of these contracts with the government. You never asserted yourself. You never came into the age of majority. That's what the age of majority is. It's not your body, it's your mind. Your mind has to be developed as an adult to speak and think freely and for yourself. If you never reach that age of majority mentally, then you're done. It's over for you. You're a ward of the state.
May I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's back up to from the very beginning where we actually contracted with them by writing our name.
Okay.
Correct? That's where it begins, right?
No. Where it begins is when you came of the mental age of majority, you didn't begin to administer and administrate your own affairs. You continued to allow the Social Security Administration, the IRS, and the local courts to take care of all of your affairs for you. If you're not going in and stepping into the role of the executor and remedying all of your situations and administrating your estate, then, well, you're not the administrator. And if you're not the administrator, you're the administrated. Does that make sense?
Well, I was actually talking about a particular situation, but I think we probably need another class for all that, where you start from the very beginning, well, like you're speaking of. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, where we taught this, you know?
So, okay.
Where taught this until we get in trouble.
The very beginning is the birth certificate that's going on. They're using the statutes, codes, and law.
Okay, so let's
No. Let me take a real quick. Let me help people out. It started when man started taking upon his earthly father's name. We are told in the Bible we are not to take upon an earthly father. We are to honor our Father which art in heaven. And it tells us in Genesis 5, verse 2, he named them Adam. Why are we even taking upon a last name?
So, okay, can I answer that for you?
Because it's an administrative process.
No. It actually comes from the Magna Carta. So what happened is, back prior to the Constitution is actually traced back to the Magna Carta. So what happened is, prior to the Magna Carta, the kings and the royal bloodlines ran everything, and what they would do is they would go and get knights, which was usually the second-born or third-born son of a house, because the firstborn gets all the inheritance, the second-born needs to make a name for the family, so he goes out to war to make a name for the family. So what would happen is, he would get all of this stuff while he's out on conquest, and he couldn't keep it with him. So they created an international banking system to hold all of his stuff. They held it all in treasury, right? So what would end up happening is, then the banking institutions started writing out IOUs and stuff like that, and doing, promissory notes and fiat currencies off of the things that they held in deposit. But that's a story for another day. But what ends up happening is, let's say you amass all of this fortune, all these spoils of war, okay, and you fucking die. Who gets it? Where does it go? You've got a wife and kids to support. You've got a family back home, but you've been on the Crusades. And you died. But during your conquest, you found gold and silver and spices and fabrics that were worth a ton of money. Where does it go? Well, if there was no governing body over any of this stuff, your older brother would take all of your stuff. Right? So you went out, you did the battle, and your brother gets the reward. You got nothing. So then they started to say, okay, all right, let's start to make things again homogeneous. Let's start to make things uniform across the board. So then they start, what house are you from? You see what I'm saying? So now it would make it, when you would say what house you were from, it would make it harder for them to plunder your accounts, the things that you had and things that you amassed.
Could you guys please mute out? I don't want to end this meeting short. I've got a couple more speakers here that are going to lay some stuff out for you. And if you're not going to be muting out and being polite to these guest speakers who traveled hours to be here today to speak with you, I'll just end the meeting. I'm going to say it one more time only. Please mute out until you have an appropriate time to intersect and ask a question. Thank you.
So then the kings noticed that all of this money was laying around in these treasuries, and they all started to do horrible things with it. And that's where Friday the 13th comes from, and that's where the Knights of Templar and all that other crap comes from, is all of that wealth was getting plundered, okay? All of it was getting administrated and taken and robbed and thieved. And so then the nobles were like, okay, look, we're all getting robbed here. And we're all going to end up broke if we don't do something. So they literally, in England, stormed the castle and got the king to sit down and negotiate a fair contract. And by fair, not just for him and not just for the nobles, but for most people. And one of the things that they came up with is there wasn't going to be any more, forcing people into contracts at the tip of the sword. You weren't going to do that anymore. The Magna Carta pretty much put the end to that. You're not going to trick people into things by hiding and lying about information in the contract. Now, if someone's an idiot and they're willing to get screwed in a contract, that's their fault. But you're not allowed to withhold information. You're not allowed to like say a property is absolutely in distress, it's crap, it's terrible, you're not allowed to tell somebody that it's great and it's wonderful. You have to tell them the truth. Like, okay, this is crap. If you really want it, here's the price, and that's it. So everything kind of started with banking, because what do people always care about? Money, position, fame, honor, power, authority. That's what drives most of humanity. Most human beings are just vain, vassal creatures. And if you just think about it logically, if you want to control a brother, there's something wrong with you. Like there's something like you got some Jeffrey Dahmer crap going on in your head that you want to control another person. Who cares if my neighbor smokes pot? I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't care if my neighbor drinks. I don't care. If they're not hurting anybody, they're not damaging property, who cares? Yeah. So you got to think about this. All of this stuff that they've created is over money and finance. They want to control the purse strings. That's all it's about, because in the cartoon Aladdin, they gave you full disclosure. When Jafar said, "He who has the gold makes the rules." And that's what they are doing. They're trying to get you to sign up for their gold. They're trying to get you to sell your rights for privileges and benefits. They're trying to control you using these mechanisms, these levers, these pulleys to twist you and contort you and turn you around and turn you upside down. When all you got to remember is very simple. Don't contract unless you actually want to pay the bill. Don't say something that you're going to do that you're not. You know, don't go around lying to people, telling people you're going to do stuff that you're not going to do. You don't have the right to do that. And if that's the kind of person you are, then this isn't for you. But if you want to be honorable and you want to live honorably and be a righteous person, that doesn't mean you don't sin, but you don't sit on your bed thinking of ways to screw people. You know, you're going to do the right things. You know?
Derek, I have a question.
Yeah.
You just went over something very important that I've been seeing that I don't think a lot of people may have gotten the concept of. But you were talking about the birth certificate and what it may be. This is a question that I talked about. You were talking about the estate that a knight may have had.
Yeah.
Well, now the birth certificate to me, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is a title to that family's estate.
No.
It's never been
No.
claimed.
No,
Okay.
the birth certificate is a bill of lading, and it's used to leverage sweat equity.
It's a bailment
Yeah,
certificate
that's all it is.
showing that you're the bailor for the bailee, which is the United States.
You're
The
basically there to bail them out.
The 21 trillion due and owing is due to the people of the world. Due to, for the 21 trillion due and owing, according to the United States, is the people who contributed to it. Okay? And they're turning around and pledging you, well, you're actually pledging yourself as surety, and then you're not exercising your right to subrogation. All right? The birth certificate is a bailment certificate. Okay? And certificates have value. All right? Debt is actually value. People don't comprehend that a debt has value. And because that debt has value, that debt then and there becomes an asset. All right? So now we're talking about like Title 15, Subpart 1, Subsection 1, when we start looking at trade and commerce, and we start looking at the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act. All right? So if he can just get through his valid points on this, and we'll take questions at the end, because this will go on for hours, and there's another very, very, very learned lady online with us right now who I'd like to get her on at some point, because she has some very important information through her personal testimonies, her trial by fire, and what she's done and prevailed in, that I want all of you guys to be able to hear. So make sure to mute out, let him just get through it so she can take over. There's another guest speaker here. He's got some very important things to talk to you about IRS forms and what he's found with OMB numbers and so on and so forth. And really looking forward to hearing from these guys.
All right, so I'm just going to close out with this, and then I'm pretty well done. I've won with child support for myself and a few other people. I've helped other people with traffic issues and driving issues and that kind of thing. So, I mean, you can look me up on the computer. My name is Jeremiah Lewis, Richland County, Ohio. I don't care. So, back to what you were talking about with the money, okay? With the birth certificates, with the whole thing. It's all about bonds and securities, okay? Securities and bonds are assets, okay? Why are they assets? Because these are future ways to collect money. When you sign a security note, a promissory note is a security note, a mortgage is a security note. When you sign a security, that's anything with a numerical value, a date, and a signature is a security. That's why gas stations collect your receipts at the end of the night that you sign for. Because why? They're fucking securities. And their company is going to lodge those with an underwriter and sell them on the brick market. That's how they make money. And that's why you don't. Now, your birth certificate is a bond. It's a bill of lading. It's a way of, like he was trying to explain to you, of saying these people are worth this much money potentially. That's you ever heard the term futures? When they speculate futures on the market, they're talking about bonds and securities. Because the reason debt is valuable and the reason debt is an asset is because if somebody owes you something, they're going to make a payment. Okay? And why are they going to make a payment? Because of credit. Okay? Where does the credit come from? The bonds. The bonds are the insurance policy in the financial transaction if something was to go awry and someone didn't fulfill their end of the bargain. Then the bond bails out the transaction. And that's all what credit is. Okay? That's why your credit score, if you notice, poor people have bad credit. Why? Because their futures don't look so good. They don't understand money. How it works, where it comes from, who has it, who doesn't. Why things are important and valuable that aren't. So when you go to the store and you sign things and you take on loans and debts, all you're doing is you're giving someone else your assets. You're giving someone else the benefit of your credit. That's the whole thing is about. It's about this system right here. Credits, debts, bonds, and securities, and assets. There is no such thing as a liability. Because everyone and everything is worth something. It's just a matter of how much. Okay? You don't get a tax return. Okay? You get a dividend to help you engage in commerce. Because if they didn't give you money, you wouldn't be able to make any. Okay? You wouldn't be able to participate in this system if it wasn't given to you. So then they got to say, excuse me, how much do we give? So they give you just enough to participate in the economy so you're not just laying there like a fucking bump on the log, not doing nothing and not making nothing. Okay? Everybody thinks that this is like some kind of get-rich scheme. It's not. Okay? It's not a get-rich scheme. For you to understand this stuff, you have to put in a lot of work. I guarantee you, did you get here by being stupid and lazy?
11 years of study.
Eric, how many years of study you got?
Oh, hell, 36.
How many years of study do you got? How many years of study do you got?
Yeah.
2.
But probably 2 very intense years, right?
Right.
So if you think you're just going to jump in here and start, doing A for V and all this stuff, and you're going to start milking this system and getting all of the assets without participating in anything else in the process, you're going to end up in prison. And deservingly so. Okay? So, what they're trying to force you into is bonds and securities. That's what court cases are about. If you don't believe me, I'm sure these guys are going to clarify it for you. And I've taken up enough time. And
Yeah, sure.
Very good.
So, what was her name? Christine?
Kristen.
Christine. Kristen, are you on with us? Do you want to take over for a little bit of time here? And, you've got the capability of sharing your screen with everybody that's on, if you like. Kristen, are you on with us?
I'm here. I lost the screen for a second, but I'm here.
All right. Well, you can introduce yourself however you see fit, and just kind of take over. And we'd ask everybody to just mute out and be respectful of her time. And we'll keep questions for the end, because she's got a lot of very important information that she would like to share with you. So please don't violate her valuable time, because she's got other things she could be doing at this point. So go ahead, Kristen, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, I wanted to start with the fact that I was not prepared for this whatsoever. I was told about 45 minutes before we all started. So, I don't have anything really in front of me, and I'm not really sure exactly what you want to hear about. So, if Jeremiah, could you tell me which thing in particular? Because I've done anything.
Okay, so you have actually litigated your case from the beginning to an appeal, and you've done so pretty much on your own, without an attorney, without any help from the system. Matter of fact, a lot of negative impact from them. But you also have done a lot of good research lately on the 1099 process. So if you could kind of hit on those, I feel like that's all you.
Okay, well, I have to say, he says on my own, Jeremiah has been a huge influence and help to me. So, yes, I might have done the processes myself, and I created the rejection of 12 presumptions, affidavit of truth, which I continue to modify and change, and the more I learn, the more it grows.
Can you show it? Can you show them yours?
If you tell me how, yes.
If you have it on your computer, what you can do is there's a green share button, and you click on the green share button, and you'll now be sharing your screen. So before you hit the share button, take any porn that you have on the screen off. All right, let's just make sure that doesn't happen. Yeah, just joking, of course. But whatever you have that's private, special, and priority that nobody else should be seeing, make sure to change your screens. If you have the document up on your screen when you hit share screen, that's what will be presented to the people. So.
Okay, let me look. There's two that I had pulled up, but I haven't got to see which one I want to see which one.
I just want to say real quick before you get started, you mentioned something about the 1099, and I want you guys to pay attention to her if she's studying it and learning it. It's very important. I know this, and I only filed the 3949A with the 1099A and 1099 or 1096 cover sheet in my case, and they put the protection order out on me, and they continue that protection order today.
Yeah.
Just bear with me just 1 second, because the ones I just put, Jeremiah, I'm going to share yours if you don't mind.
No, go ahead. That'd be perfect. The one you did for me was great. That's a great one.
And again, before she gets into this, remember, this is not legal advice. This is just a friendly conversation amongst our fellow brothers and sisters who wish to ascend to the mind, okay? This is not legal advice. Go do your own research, ladies and gentlemen. We're just here to help you through our trials and tribulations, what we have found to be true, okay? So it's all yours. Go ahead.
Okay, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a version, so every affidavit of truth needs to be specifically created for whatever the event is, right? So you're not going to have one that you just use generically all the time. So, there are sections that aren't going to change, and sometimes maybe you're just changing date. Like, in the beginning, I was putting at the very end, because you have to have points. An affidavit of truth has to have points so that whoever you're writing it against can rebut each point, or some points, or no points, but they have, for it to be rebutted, every single point has to be rebutted. So you want to include things that are not rebuttable, like maxims of law or things like that. I was at the beginning putting, I was going to enter a motion to dismiss. You don't want to put legal actions in an affidavit of truth. You want to do that as a separate thing. Like I do say that I'm going to address it that way, but I don't put it at its own point anymore. So definitely research the laws around affidavits because there are many. But basically, it's the most powerful document in our legal, in the legal system because even though we've gotten far away from people's word actually having value, it is what everything is based around. So your word should have value, and it has the highest value in our court system. So your truth, what you're speaking on, is one of the most powerful things you can stand on. So I don't know. Do you want me to read through this? Do you guys want me to share it? You can read it yourselves. I don't know how exactly you want me to do it.
Are you able to just leave it like so people can read it and then you go on with something else?
I don't know if
So I don't know tech. I don't know.
I don't know it very well. So I'm
Just gonna leave it there.
Yeah, can you just leave it like it is right there and then you just keep talking? Because I want you to hit on like what happened in court and the judge getting removed and the new judge coming in and getting removed, and because you've done a lot of really cool stuff and people need to know that it's possible.
There are multiple. Okay, so talk about divine intervention, I guess we'll say. So for never having any serious charges, I had 15 opportunities to practice my being in the courtroom in the last 2 years. So that's quite a bit of courtroom experience that was, I'll tell you right now, my least favorite thing to do. So of course, what do I have to do? My least favorite thing. So I had to go into the courtroom and be uncomfortable and be, tripping over my words. I didn't always sound very confident because I wasn't, even though I faked it with my best abilities. But the thing is it doesn't matter how you sound. It matters what you do and what you say. So, and a court transcript doesn't even show nervousness or any of that. So, basically, the number one thing is your actions in the courtroom have to align with what you're saying. So you can't capitulate. Like if they say come stand at this podium right here, they're directing you to do something. If you do that, then who's in charge? Not you, because you're doing what they're telling you to do. And so if you enter into the well, which is that little half wall, there's always some kind of divider in the courtroom that they have people enter into and enter out of. That is their jurisdiction. So if you move your body into that space, then you are physically standing in their jurisdiction in that moment. So you can't stand there and say you have no authority or power over me. Because what's authority and power? It's jurisdiction. So you just literally physically gave them jurisdiction over you. So you have to know these things. You have to know what to say and what to decline. And they are very good at tricking you. Do not ever believe that they're trying to help you, because the second they act nice, you better take even 5 more steps back away from them with what are you really trying to do. Stop and think. I don't care how long you have to sit there and think, but think before you speak. Think before you act. Think when they do something or say something, run down in your mind every single avenue of why they're doing that. Why are they saying that? What are they trying to get out of it? What are they trying to do? And then do not budge. You know that your position is correct. Do not question yourself, because they will create doubt. They will pick apart your little pieces of self-doubt that you already have, and then they'll use the one thing we don't have, which is the law of force, and they'll use intimidation. Like every single time I've been in the courtroom, I've been surrounded by bailiffs with, guns on their hip, and they're literally 2 feet from me in a circle, sometimes more than others. And so it's not a comfortable situation, and it's going to be difficult, and it will test your character.
The only tools they have is fear and lies. And sometimes they become aggressive, like, several times when we've been in court. So you got to learn how to use duress. You know what I mean? Absolutely.
And sometimes they will put you in jail.
I know how to beat the offer to contract to go to jail. Okay, so
Well, I'm talking about in the beginning.
right.
It doesn't matter what, because you're not saying enough, and they know that you're not really dangerous. You're dangerous to them because they don't want you to learn anymore.
So here's
You're not dangerous to them because you know how to harm them.
here's how you can prevent them from putting you or accosting you against your will and putting you into jail for contempt of court. First and foremost, there are only two types of contempt of court. One is criminal, the other one is civil. If it's civil, that means there's a contract that you're in breach of, and they must produce the contract. They can't presume and assume jurisdiction. They must bring the contract forward. That's civil. Okay? The second one is criminal, which means there's a man or woman that you have caused harm, injury, damage, or loss to, and that man or woman must come forward on and for the official record and state his verified claim on and for the official record. Now, there's a little trick they like to play in the court. It's called direct contempt of court. Direct contempt of court does not apply unless you stay silent and acquiesce to it. Okay? So there's always a quid pro quo in order. Anytime a magistrate opens their mouth, they're making an offer to contract. There are only two ways to remain in honor. Agree with thy adversary quickly and pay the debt, or conditionally accept the obligation upon proof of claim. Those are the only two ways to do it, okay? So, once you lose that fear, you can assert yourself and say, Your Honor, is that civil or criminal? He's going to say more than likely, criminal. Great. Will the man or woman come forward today stating the harm, injury, damage, or loss that I have caused them because I am here today as a man of honor, wanting and wishing to bring remedy to any man, woman, or child I've caused harm to? That immediately quashes the criminal side. The civil side is, Your Honor, please produce the contract with wedding signature that I knowingly, willingly, and intentionally entered into that I'm in breach of. If you can't do that, it's over. All right? So very, very important. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, he's right. One of the things, that is one of the things I say, produce the injured party or the contract that's been broken, because there isn't one. Okay, number one thing, do not sign anything. I don't care what they tell you, and I'm reading some things that say you want to accept things, but for now, just don't. Don't sign anything, not even under duress. A signature is a signature is a signature. They don't care how you sign it. A signature is you consenting to their authority. And I don't think we're quite at a place where we're going to get into signatures yet, but they definitely matter. There's different ways to sign things. If you do want to sign things, and where and how you do it on the page. I'm not sure I should really going to go into that just yet. But going back to my court case, things I say in the courtroom. So I always say things like, I object. It doesn't matter. Like, just object. Like, just be annoyingly the person who if she could say today's date and you just say, I object. Like, you object to everything, because once there's an objection, especially if they're not honoring any of the things that you're trying to say or do, then just object. And then it stops everything, and they have to address your objections. If they don't do that, then they're not acting honorably, which they most likely won't. I mean, they think you know the rules of the court, and most likely you're not going to be that familiar because there's so many, and it's going to depend on which court they're even acting within. And but
Can
no,
I
don't consent.
Can I add to your objection?
What?
Can I add to your objection?
Yes.
Okay. I object as an appealable issue, and I want it noted for the official record. Take judicial notice, whether it be silent or otherwise. I object as an appealable issue. And they may ask you, on what grounds? You don't necessarily have to give them the grounds. You just have to step forward and say, I object to this as an appealable issue. Now, at the at-law side, if you don't object to it as an appealable issue, a substantial rights violation, whatever it may be, assume facts not in evidence, okay? Finding of facts and conclusion of law is why I'm objecting. I see no evidence on the record. There's a number of ways you can object, but always, always, always object as an appealable issue on the at-law side, because when it goes to appeal,
There is no more argument. They're simply going to look at the administrative process, and it's all going to be paperwork. There is no argument at the at-law administrative side in the appellate level, okay?
There actually is.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying that in the appeal, I'll get to the appeal in a minute, but I was trying to keep it a little simple because whenever people were telling me all of those things, I could never write as fast as they could talk, and so I was trying just to keep it in a place where so they can get the gist of it. But yeah, it's good to give them the meat and potatoes too, I guess. Okay, so my case. Let's go into what happened. I had two cases. One was an existing driving under suspension that I had moved to Columbus and I didn't deal with it. And when I came back, it was still there. And then I had a falsification charge that came about from a fire alarm that had gone off in the house. I was cooking fajitas, and the fire truck came and they left because I said it was a false alarm. Well, two police officers came. I didn't think to look out the door. I opened it. Two female police officers. They stayed on my front porch with the screen door between us for 53 minutes, trying to demand me give them identification, my ID, who I was. And I had the homeowner at the time tell them over the phone, I was allowed to be there, this, that, and the other. But they came back a few days after that, and they did not even get an official warrant for me. They just picked me up on the bench warrant because they couldn't really get a judge's signature on this bullshit charge. But they did still push it through. No indictment, the whole thing was so wrong in so many places. When I did appeal it, because I did lose that case eventually. First, I guess, let me go back because that part's complicated. So, when I first went to court, I had Bannon Rucker as the judge. And I told him I wanted to represent myself. He said that was fine. I signed, and I don't know if you guys can see this. I'm going to try to make it visible. Can you guys see this at all?
Yeah, we can see it.
This is what they had me sign for representing myself. Now, what they tried to do is they tried to trick me right here. Do you guys see how they put my name? Uppercase, lowercase, with a comma in between. That is not the defendant. That is actually me, the real woman. Everything else is always, the defendant's always represented in all capital letters because that's this straw man that we all know, that's the allegiance. That's this person right here. So this is the way that I signed for the defendant, but I also did this. I added my own signature line on the right-hand side. Can you read that? Basically what it says is UCC 1-308, all rights reserved, and then it says, I have the line that I made myself, and then it says, sign, my last name, comma, my first name, comma, my middle name, comma, executrix. And I had entered at this point and a previous point an executrix appointment, which is the female version of the executor's appointment, so that I'm administering my own estate. So, and on the right-hand side is, I guess I said I wasn't getting into signatures, but I guess I am. So the right-hand side is the creditor. The left-hand side is the debtor. The right-hand side is the creditor. Looking at it backwards in the image. But doing that, and I put it at the very bottom. You see at the very bottom, they couldn't even stamp underneath it. Wherever the stamp is, if it can go underneath your signature, then they have taken ownership of your document yet again. So you want to make sure that you are the very bottom last thing on that page, because then you own it, you control it. And so my judge actually threw this document off the side of his desk. Like, he didn't say anything about it at the time, and I thought it was just because, I was claiming, I was showing the separation, which you have to do. You have to show your knowledge of the separation between you and the straw man or the allegiance that they have the charges against, all capital names. Those are two different entities.
So let me show you how I signed. Like, this is my appeal right here. This is the one I actually entered. And I'm going to show you how I signed things that I create, anything, affidavit of truth. It's in the legal realm, I sign like this. Can you see?
Yeah.
There's two lines. You have one for the allegiance and one for the woman, and you want your information below. But that's because you're showing that you understand that there's two different entities being represented in this paperwork. So I talk about my allegiance as a third person. Never say I. It's not you. You're not. I am not the strongman. I am the one speaking about the entity that they created in my name, but I am not that entity. And if I was that entity, then maybe they could have some jurisdiction over me, only because they're the ones who created it. Now, you guys were saying some of the things about birth certificates, and I know everybody has a slightly different way to look at it, but what I've been looking at lately is that the birth certificate is actually, and we all know it is a bond. It is a bond. And what I've been researching with the OID stuff and the 1099 is that it's actually a blank bond and not filled out until a criminal action, or they're basically until they're trying to access that account. That is when it gets filled out as a bid bond, which can become a prison bond. And those are the things that are starting to be moved into the 1099, the OID.
Hey.
I'm not going to do that yet because I'm going to try to stay on topic, which I'm really bad at. I'm really good at side notes and going off to 20 different directions, so I'm going to try to stay going stuff. But, okay, so with these signatures, that paper I just showed you, that's me owning, putting ownership or claiming subject matter jurisdiction. So there's personal jurisdiction that the court has to have, and there's subject matter jurisdiction that the court has to have, and that is what the prosecution is, that their burden of proof to prove that they have subject matter jurisdiction over you, not yours, theirs, because they're the ones bringing the controversy. So the very first thing you have to do in a court, because you can appeal only if you've done, it makes it a lot easier for you to appeal if you've done this. The very first thing that you are supposed to be objecting to, or questioning for them, telling them that they need to prove that they have, is subject matter jurisdiction, because it is the jurisdiction over the not human being, the woman, the man, the living, breathing body that the court has no room for. The court does not have a way of speaking to you because you don't exist to them, which is why you have to put things on paper, because they are a two-dimensional entity. They're a mental construct created by the Constitution and the people, right? So it's not an entity that has ears, so it can't hear you. The only thing it understands is paperwork, because it can read, because that's where it lives. It's two-dimensional. So that's the whole thing about paperwork, and why what you say you also have to follow with documents that are entered into the case that need to be supporting what you're saying. And some people think that you shouldn't enter things first because you're telling them what you're going to do. So what? It doesn't change the fact that, we're not trying to trick them. We're just trying to show them what we know. They're the ones that have been tricked. We don't, some of our stuff might be a little tricky, but it's their own, we're just using their own system against them. But, so I did get Shannon Rucker removed. He did resign. And I don't know exactly which point did, because it's not like they call you up and tell you this, why we did what we did. I just know from my actions. And then, so I entered they trespassed me out of the municipal building, so I couldn't enter anything into my case. I could not defend myself because I couldn't enter anything, because if I went into the building, they would have me arrested. So what I did is I went straight to the clerk of courts, Aftap, Pure Evil, Pure Ball, however you say his last name. And so I went straight to his office, and I've been there a few times because I'm not afraid of assholes. And I was so pissed. exhausted. So I was mad, and I just wanted to make sure he heard me. So I knocked really hard, and he actually just happened to be sitting right inside the door. So he opened the door, and he just looked up at me. I said, just the man I wanted to see. I said, I have court in 2 days, and they will not let me enter any documents into my case. I want to file these 3 documents, which was my affidavit of truth, rejecting the 12 presumptions, my executor's appointment, and my reservation of commercial right. It's not the same as constitutional right. Constitution is for the living, breathing body person who does not have any room in that court, which is why there is no constitution in the courtroom anymore. But so that's why I did the commercial. So I handed it to him, and he says, "Okay." He's looking him over, and he goes, "Well, I'll see what I can do." And I said, "Will you tell me what would prevent you from being able to enter those documents? Because I'm pretty sure you're still going to you can retrieve and you can file, but you don't get to have a say in what gets retrieved and filed. Am I correct?" And he says, "Well, we'll just see, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can." I said, "Okay." Well, he did question me, like, "What is this? What is this? Why is this signature this way? What is it in allegiance?" And one of the ways that he could have chosen not to enter my documents is if I had taken somebody else's words and I was trying to enter them as my own and I didn't understand them. You have to understand what it is you're entering. You have to be able to stand on it and understand the way that it's the way that you're using it as a defense. Because if they can question you and you don't, and it's somebody else's creation, it'll fall. Like, you'll fall flat on its face. Like, it can't work. It won't work if you don't know how to make it work. So I left there, and I wasn't driving because I wasn't trying to ruffle any feathers at the time. I was trying to just make it easier. So I walked up the street because one of my charges was driving under suspension. So walked up the street, and by the time I got 10 minutes up the road, I think I was talking to Jeremiah at the time, I got a call from a clerk who called me and said, "Miss McClanahan?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Okay, I've never seen this happen before in my life." He said, "Aftab himself just came down and handed me your paperwork and told me to enter it in both of your cases." He was like, "So that's what I'm going to do." He did try to trick me. He said, "Do you want me to mail you a copy? You don't never want anything coming to your address because that's a contract, and if you don't know how to return it properly, you've just accepted it. Just to keep it simple, don't have them mail anything to your address. And if they do, you have to address it properly within 72 hours." But so I said, "No, I don't need a copy. I created it myself. I have plenty of copies." So he entered it into the case. Well, when I went into the courtroom 2 days later, Van and Rucker was not there. There was a magistrate, which took me a little bit listening to her to figure out that she was a magistrate. Magistrates don't have any power. I mean, she was not able to do anything. So what I realized was that they had accepted my appointment and my position, and Van was doing the honorable thing and was not sitting on the case, because otherwise I was going to challenge him in the executive court, and that convinced many more trouble. I don't know, for lack of better words, I'm lacking right now. But basically, so I met with the prosecutor at Holly, and I made a verbal agreement, which is a private agreement, which is proper, but they don't honor their own thing. You'll see what I mean. So I said, as the executrix, I want the case closed with Smith. And she said, "Well, blah, blah, blah," and I don't remember what she said because I was just waiting for her to stop talking so I could reiterate what I said, which is, "No, as the executrix, I want the case closed and dismissed." And I said, that's it. And she said, "Okay, thank you." That is a contract. That is a verbal contract. It's just signing it. So what I did, though, is I went back to Aftab's office, who loves me by this point, and his secretary came out, and I said, "I can't go file anything, because I'm part of the municipal building, so I need you." I showed up this date at this time. I was here, so that they couldn't try to say that I wasn't in the courtroom. And I want these charges dismissed with prejudice. I have it. I actually still have it. She went back and Aftab stamped it with his stamp and signed it with one of those pens that's like the kind of blue that you can't copy, and you can't make a copy of it and look the same color ink. So I have that, and I still have that document, which when I appealed my case, that stamp disappeared and his signature disappeared. That's a felony right there. I would have won my appeal strictly by showing that document that was changed, altered, which is the one thing that the custodian of documents is absolutely not allowed to do, which is to change document or his signature. So what was that do? Signature and my signature on an order, that becomes a contract. Broke. He violated. Because 6 months went by, I thought it was closed. They never actually closed it. So I went back and got myself put on Rutgers docket. And they said, well, he has a lot, he's very busy, so he can't see till the 30th. It's on the 9th of the month, he can't see till the 30th. Well, on the 20th, halfway through that time, he resigned. On the 21st, they took a juvenile judge and appointed her, the governor appointed her to replace her. Now she's a judge. They always make you go last. They don't want anyone to see what you're doing. So I had to sit and watch this lady fumble the fuck, sorry for words, that every single case she had a guy standing next to her telling her that she didn't know how to be a judge. Well, that's who decided my case. And 7 days after I filed my appeal, she was also no longer a judge anymore. So both of the judges that sat on my case now are gone. And we actually, in that same time period, got found guilty by the same appeals court of abuse of power. So that may have something to do with why they accepted my appeal, because a judge has already acted as dishonor. Maybe, I don't know. I'll never know why they accepted my appeal. But it took me 9 months of studying and studying. I mean, first I had to study what wins an appeal. Which of their millions of atrocities, which one was the worst? Which one was the most worthy of me using for my appeal? So if you don't mind, I'm not going to read you any of it. It's 22 pages. It's very long, but it's probably my most proudest thing I've done. I mean, 9 months in, I was like, why did I think I could write an appeal? What am I doing? I was literally freaking out, but it actually came out really well. And basically, what it boils down to is consent. Without my consent, without the people's consent, they have no authority. And so I showed why they didn't have personal jurisdiction. I showed why they didn't have subject matter jurisdiction. And while it's actually the ball's still in their court because they never proved it. And then the one that I love the most, which is I showed that statutes, by their definition, do not apply to the living, breathing body, man or woman. They don't even pretend to. So every statute, ORC code for Ohio, I'm sure every other one's the same, but every ORC code starts, no person shall. No person. Okay, well, what's a person? We all know the legal term of person does not mean us sitting here speaking right now. So I wanted to see by the ORC's definition, what do they mean when they say person? And I am going to read you that, because that was eye-opening. We already know what it is. It's the same as we've always said the legal terms, but I just want you to see I just want to read it for you right here. So, okay, person is used in the applicable chapter. So they charged me with falsification. So under that exact same section in the ORC, I looked up what does that person mean? What do they mean when they say person in that exact space? So it says ORC 2721.01, person defined as used in this chapter. Person means any person, which we all know, you can't use the word in its own definition. So it means any person, partnership, joint stock company, unincorporated association, society, municipal corporation, or other corporation. So what does it not say? It doesn't say man, woman, individual, any of those. The people definitely doesn't say Kristen K of the House of McClanahan, the real woman, definitely doesn't say that. So what I chose to do was to argue, on my appeal, I chose to ask, did the trial court misinterpret the term person or the statute to actually apply to the real woman? Because they took me, the real woman, and they put me in jail for 6 days. So that, by definition, would pretty much tell you that they applies to me, right? So, but it doesn't. And now I entered my appeal brief, 22 pages, and the prosecution, Cincinnati prosecution, has now asked for their second extension on responding, which now is putting them at 3 months, but it's taking them to reply, which is kind of making me nervous because I'm like, oh, well, obviously they can't just say it's just bullshit, because I don't think it takes 3 months to prove bullshit. But how much they're putting together that I'm going to have to argue is, we'll see. We'll see. It's supposed to be in by the 30th of this month. And you said that they don't go to oral argument. We actually are with COVID. I'm not sure, but we are supposed to go to oral argument. The only thing I can argue is the things I put in my brief. The only thing they can argue is the things they put in their brief. So within the next 6 months, it's supposed to be scheduled for me to litigate in the courtroom. No people, just 3 judges, the 3 appeals judges, versus me, versus prosecution, and they're representing 2 judges that are not even actively judges anymore. So they don't even have anybody to reply on the actual decisions made. So, does anybody have any questions about any of that right now? Because the OID stuff is separate.
I don't think anybody has any questions on that. Did you touch on the 1099 process yet?
No, that's why I said, does anybody have any questions about that?
Okay, I got a statement to make.
Yeah.
When you started out all this, and you got those little nuggets, and you went in there, and you really got brave, and you did things that you really didn't want to do, and that's a rare person. And I want to say that you started out, they was holding court with you. And now you've developed into someone that has been very impressive. And now you take your court inside there and you whoop their ass. And I see that. So you're one of us. We appreciate all your study and everything. And I hear my stuff in your words sometimes. So it's a great thing. So yeah.
Thank you. What? I can't hear.
Just keep trucking with the 1099.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, so the 1099, I don't have I'm not gonna sit here and say like I have the solution, but I do have places that are absolutely need to be addressed.
Can I just pause one thing? I just want to say one thing for everybody that's listening. Can you hear me, Kristen?
Yeah.
Okay, this process is not perfected by anyone, but we all kind of feel like there's really genuinely something there that we can use to defend ourselves against the money scheme that they're trying to suck us into. So what the information you're about to get from Kristen is part of something we're all kind of working on.
Yeah, by means is this a process to be used? But
So don't.
I believe that it is a real process.
Yeah, so don't hold anything against her if she's wrong, because I just failed at something I tried to do with the 1099 process. So it's okay to fail. It's okay. You just got to keep trying. So just give her, a little bit of breathing room here.
Remember, when we make a mistake, we have to ask for forgiveness. We're supposed to forgive those who trespass against us, for they know not what they do. And in order to receive forgiveness, you must be capable and have the capacity to forgive. So we write a letter. Remember, we didn't make an error because we're not an agent and agency. An error comes with a compensation, if you will. But a man is capable of making a mistake and asking for forgiveness. Okay? So it's very, very, very imperative that you comprehend what we're speaking of here.
Well, mistakes also, I will tell you, all of my mistakes have just fueled my motivation to get me to learn better or harder, or, to where it gets me to where I am now. Like if I hadn't made mistakes, I think that's part of the learning process itself, right?
Absolutely, and don't be afraid to make mistakes, ladies and gentlemen, but know how to repent. All right, everything is about remaining in honor. So I'm going to give you all the teeth to your documents. What really grabs their attention? I am here to remain in honor. I am operating in good faith with good conscience for good reason. Okay? And I'm just looking for my rights, titles, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general tangibles, general intangibles, chattels, securities, trust residuals, and trust residue. My intent of being here is to let people know that I am here as the beneficiary, okay? And I need to know why the why the trustee hasn't came forward with the securities to balance the books. Under CFR 277211, all crimes are commercial, and that is your telltale sign that everything is dealing with securities and bonds, okay? So important to comprehend that. We're here in good faith to provide remedy. So many people go into a court and have what I call be right-itis. They just want to be right. No matter what it takes, they want to be right. And that is the wrong attitude to have. What we're there to do is to provide remedy. You want to talk about, I've had court cases disappear. When the woman came forward, she studied underneath me for a little bit. I just gave her the curriculum and the material to read. And then she would come to me every week or so and say, okay, this is what I gained out of it. And she would speak and make a mistake. And I would chew her ass. I was not forgiving. There were times she was almost bawling because I was so brutal to her. And she asked me, why are you being so hostile? And I said, that's a great word. I love that word. I'm glad you used it. Hostile, insurrectious behavior. All right? There's another word for it as well. There's belligerent, hostile, insurrectious behavior, and seditious behavior, okay? And so when she said, why are you being so hostile with me? I said, because I want you to know that Derrick Gonzalez is far worse than that judge could ever be. Because you're going into the den with lions, and they're prepared to make you the sacrificial lamb. And your ass is going to set, that's what ass set, is going to set in jail if I am not hard on you, okay? She walked into that court and said, I'm just here to remain in honor. I have a few questions where I need clarification. Again, I'm here to provide remedy and remain in honor. When she said that, it was over. It was done, folks. Okay? So, again, the teeth in your documents isn't necessarily all the paragraphs that you put in there. I've closed court cases down with one piece of paper, 2 paragraphs. Okay? There is no emotion at all. It's all the cause and effect of the action, and it's not how it made me feel. It's remedy and what needs to be done in order to secure remedy. All right? Once a trespass occurs, it continues to be a trespass until it is remedied. And part of that is staying in honor during the process and always clarifying your juxtaposition. I am just here to provide remedy. The beneficiary is known, and all I need to know is why the trustee hasn't come forward with the securities to balance the ledger, to balance the books. Now, in the at-law section of the court, they're never going to acknowledge what you're saying. But believe you me, the magistrate is hearing you very clearly, okay? But on the at-law side, he's not allowed to engage in that conversation because what you're talking about is the private side of the ledger that's held in the exclusive jurisdiction of equity, okay? And if he's not going to recognize that, you need to ask him if he disclaims the trust. It's a lot like asking him if he still beats his wife. Either way he answers it, he's a cooked turkey, okay? So once he sees the trust and once he acknowledges the trust, the constructive trust or the resulting trust due to the district attorney coming in and bringing a falsified claim, creating fraud upon the court, creating a trust. Once he acknowledges that, ladies and gentlemen, it's over. It's done. Okay? All you do is sit back and wait for the judge to appoint him as trustee and to handle the affairs and to give you your rights, titles, duties, your rights, titles, interests, dividends, derivatives, debentures, hediments, general tangibles, general intangibles, chattel securities, trust residuals, and trust residue. All right? Once the judge announces that he sees the trust, show a cause why this shouldn't be ex parte and sealed. Because remember, you're not supposed to be freeing slaves from the plantation. It's very dangerous what we're all doing here, okay? But we're doing it in good faith, with good conscience, for good reason. So if you go look at Title 50, 4305B2, which used to be 95A, Title 1295A, it tells you that when, under the military operation, through the DOD, when you do things in good faith, you cannot be incarcerated for them, ladies and gentlemen. It's so important to comprehend that. So when we're in an at-law setting, you can come in and you can plead the variance between the laws, the rules of equity and the rules of at law, and there's a conflict of interest. And because of that conflict of interest, the rules of equity must always prevail. Okay? And that's why Henry R. Gibson is so important to read. The second edition, the fifth edition, really anything of Henry R. Gibson's, if you can get your hands on it, read it. It's written in layman's terms. It's easy to understand. It's easy to comprehend. And he shows you how the trust operate, manifest into existence. And once you figure that out, it's so beautiful. So beautiful. But I'll yield the floor.
Okay, so like I said, I don't have anything that's like, I'm not going to say I know this for a fact. All I want to say is that I definitely see some places where we need to look more closely, because I haven't even really looked at any obscure places. The only thing I've been reading are the actual instructions from the IRS or the forms themselves, and then on the governing laws, the statutes that govern the documents, which are like, some are like 55 pages, some are like much more, so there's a lot there. My favorite thing to do when I research is to pull that document up and then go to the finder, and then literally research like courts. So in the instructions, I want to find all the sections on the OID or the 1099 A, and then the OID where it associates and where it's directly related to courts of any sort. Now, one thing I did find is on the A OID or the A instruction, it actually only said federal courts. It doesn't specifically say state. And so that's something I think we're going to have to read in. Look at more, because if that process only works for federal, which maybe it does, I don't know. But why does it not say state? Because we all know that when it comes to legal, if it's done in black and white, it doesn't exist.
Well, the state actually sells.
This is one of those layers that they use through the Customs and Border Protection, foreign trade zones. Your municipality is a trade zone of the county is a trade zone of the state is a trade zone of the United States. They all get their authority from the United States, and this is why they follow the federal regulations. And the federal regulations, folks, are imposed specifically for federal tax purposes. Everything goes to taxes, and taxes are duly paid by stamp, not by Federal Reserve notes.
That's a good, I'm glad you brought that up, because, man, I have to be able to find it, but somewhere in here it talks about being exempt from federal taxes, which you would be if you fill this out properly. And,
well, that's the importance of the W8BEN. That's the importance of the W8BEN as well.
Then it is going to be federally tax exempt, right? So, the other thing, like the very first thing that comes up is one IRS's website. It has this attention, and it's in red, and it talks about how you are not supposed to use the red document. It states the red document is solely for your copy of whatever's being filed. So it says if you file anything that's in red, it won't be scanned properly. So if you were to not file it online and you were to take the red copy and you were to mail it in, it's going to be denied instantaneously. very first page on the website. And it says copy A appears in red, similar to the official IRS form. The official printed version of copy A of this IRS form is scannable, but the online version of it, printed from this website, is not. Do not print and file copy A downloaded from the website. A penalty may be imposed for filing with the IRS information returned forms that cannot be scanned. See Part O of the current general instructions for current information returns available at, their website, irs.gov/forms 1099 for more information about penalty.
Kristen,
Yeah.
that's because the forms that you print out from the website, they don't have the magnetic ink in them. So you have to order them from the red form. You have to order those forms. It's a triplicate with carbon copies. You know what I mean? So you gotta order those from the IRS website. It's free. You can order up to 1,000 of any form, and they'll mail them to you for free. And that's the ones, if you're gonna send them in, if you're not gonna do it online, you have to do it with that. You have to get the forms actually from the IRS, so it has the magnetic ink in it. And you do send the red one to the IRS that when you do that.
That's probably just their misinformation.
Yes. I mean, yeah, because you can't just print out the 1099A and then fill it out and then mail it in. It's not going to work. You definitely have to get it from the IRS.
Oh yeah. Okay. So the next paragraph does say to ordered ones. Here's the website, IRS.
And the IRS is extremely happy when you order those forms, ladies and gentlemen, because they are our hellhounds. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I have spoke with an IRS agent who told me, when you order those forms, you can give us orders. We're just waiting for your orders. They are firmly aware of all the identity theft, of all the securities. They know about it all. She told me her hands are literally bound to her desk until I give her an order. And I said, well, I'm now giving you an order. Get off from your desk and get your butt down here and arrest these damn cretins. And she laughed and said, I can't do it verbally. You have to send in the documentation. I said, what documentation? She says, I can't give you legal advice. I said, okay, well, I'm not asking for legal advice. Send me the proper document. She goes, sir, you need to request what documents you want from the IRS website, and we will send them to you. If you fill them out correctly, I can assure you we would be more than happy to assist you. So they are there to help you. Everything we've ever been told about the IRS is, oh, they're big bad guys, they're taking everybody's property, this, that, and the other. It's because we know not who we are, and we have not informed them of who we are, that we're the creditors, and thus we must forgive them for their trespass against us, for they know not what they do. She was very, very firm about, hey, you send me the right documentation, within about 72 hours, we'll have somebody down at the courthouse shut her down for you.
Absolutely.
All right? So they're all about us finding our way through this path. And really, it's a godsend that the system is the way it is, because I don't know about everybody else here, but I have grown leaps and bounds, not only spiritually, but as a man because of this process, okay? So let's not look at it like, oh man, this is a lot of work. This is horrible. This shouldn't be this way. Oh, you shouldn't pledge babies. You shouldn't do this. You shouldn't do this. Let's look at it constructively and realize through trials and tribulations builds character, a better man, a better community, and helps everybody, all right? So no more pity parties, a woe's me, this isn't right, and get after it, folks. Get after it.
May I ask a question? I've waited patiently. I'd like to ask a question of everyone in this conversation in the room. I thank you all for sharing what you're sharing. You're blasted on 3 different platforms worldwide. This is simple questions. Okay, we all know this starts the root of what you just mentioned, pledging babies, this ancient system. We read about it with Mendel House and what happened there when they set up the Federal Reserve System. And they wanted to control money, industrial relations.
Ken, it started before that. It started in the book of Genesis. It started way before the pledging of babies, brother. In the beginning was the Word. The estates were created.
I'm not interrupting you. Not interrupting you, please. Just allow me to ask the question. Okay? Because I have some irrefutable proof I'd love to share with everybody. And I will share with everybody. I will ask you, who's the informant? Just an important question, little simple questions, and I'll be done. Who's the informant or grantor?
The government.
Yes. For the baby. For this baby, the pledging stuff he's talking about. Birth certificate. Who's the grantor?
Well, it's
Who's
assumed
the
to be the
informant?
mom.
Okay. Well, we've got irrefutable proof that they follow what everyone just said isn't law. They follow the statutes that have been set up by the very people that are making themselves beneficiary of the very trust that they're forcing and reporting the event regardless of protest, regardless of information. And I share with you birth certificates of 4 different children that read Ashes, and of course the upper cap surname of the family. And they also have social security cards to that effect that are active in the system because they got no information. And we were informed by the hospital where we've been told not to create drama over it, just to report the event. Okay, based on what? On statutory law, folks. And that's what I'm trying to relay this message. It's so important that they are forcing the pledge into this granting or informant of a trust through the very Bar Association statutes and rules, codes via the hospital administration of the vital stats. I digress.
And brother Ken is absolutely correct on that many aspects. When you're born, it is a matter of vital statistics. That's why your birth certificate and all that goes to the Vital Statistics Bureau in your state. It's a matter of Chamber of Commerce when they send that document through your municipal Chamber of Commerce to export it to the state. And then the state, they also have to export it to the United States. Again, like I said, it's all under the Customs and Border Protection. And I'll post the link again. But real quick here, I'm going to share my screen. Somebody touched
For the love of everyone involved, what creates a taxpayer? What creates a surety? What creates the office of person?
Lack of knowledge. Lack of knowledge creates that. Because, and let me clarify real quick. Let me clarify real quick what's really going on, because this whole pledging of babies things bothers me to the umpteenth degree. I'm gonna lay it out real clear as I possibly can. Jesus Christ was sacrificed for all debts. Debts and sin are synonymous. The creation of the estate is what your inheritance is, and without it, you wouldn't have the estate to generate trust. That birth certificate is necessary. Now, whether or not you want to ascend of the mind and realize how valuable that bailment certificate is and how to take control of it is up to you. But the reason mom and dad go to jail when they don't create that certificate is because they're actually causing harm to their offspring and denying them their inheritance. That's the fact.
Derek, may I interrupt because I want to clarify and say exactly what you said? May I?
Sure.
Okay, in the Bible it says that man inherited the earth. Man being man or man and woman. One way that the system has to retain the system as the Bible says it needs to, whether you're religious faithful or not, and it's in every book, is they have to take your portion and give it to your family. I.e., in Alaska, if they sell oil, part of the proceeds go to the system. It's the same way of thinking. Please tell me if you're wrong when I'm finished, Derek. But what this system does is it takes your portion of the mineral cells, the oil cells, all of that's in a trust for you, as well as anything that they may have taken from your family in the past, or any car you have you put into a trust because it's in the all caps names. Any house you buy goes into the trust, it's in the all caps names. We're looking at it wrong, and that's what Derrick's trying to say.
That's right, because you own nothing, yet you can control everything. And when it is in a trust, ladies and gentlemen, you can pass it to your heirs and assigns. Period.
And let me finish. Let me finish, and I'm sorry for doing this because I know I'm hurting some feelings. The person that I'm hurting the most, I love the most. Your thinking is the way we all used to think in the past. What we're trying to say is look at it with a different perspective. We've learned some things. That's all he's trying to say to you. Because y'all are so smart. I don't want the tension to be there anymore. It's a new way of looking at it, a new perspective. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Keith. I'm sorry. Thank you, Derek.
Well, I think.
Think about this trust. I want to expand upon a concept my brother Derrick introduced here, one of his Zooms previously, in regards to a tract of land where we have 2,000 acres, right? And we have these poor people that Jeremiah was talking about earlier. We've got this lower class that can't go out and get this 2,000 acres of land. But we've got somebody that's willing to grant them in trust a certain aspect of being able to attain the rights of that very Mother Earth. And, square foot for $25, brother. Now you got your land title. If that's the aspect we're looking at for resolutions and solving our problems, and it means coming together like that, we have to realize we weren't separated like this system is trying to tell you to begin with. Like I said earlier, he named them Adam.
So what we're saying here is,
please, Kristen.
I'm sorry.
Kristen.
Yes.
Your name is Adam as well.
Okay.
He named them Adam. He created man, then he named them Adam, and then he put Adam to work naming the animals. To know a thing, you must first know the name. Why are we dealing with legal names? What is it, nomens and all? Why are we dealing with that, not Adam? Ex parte motion, give cause why you are calling out with the wrong name. He named us Adam. Do you agree, Mr. Clown on the bench? If he denies that trust, you already know his intent is to violate. Pure and simple.
Did you want to capitalize on some knowledge you've gained in this? All right. All right. Well, guys, we've been at it for a few hours now. I appreciate all you guys' participation, and I thank you for all the acquired knowledge. Remember, we're all in this together. I really appreciate everybody's time. Thank you for being so humble to everybody and giving them a chance to speak, ask their questions. Do you want to? If you want, hold on 1 second. Would you like to capitalize on your acquired knowledge from your firsthand experience? You may if you wish. I will yield the floor and give it to you. But I know it's getting close to dinner time too. Yeah, it is.
Bring him on. I want to hear.
Yes.
It's all yours. What do you want to do? The whiteboard? We can flip that around too.
I'll just tell them things that I've done that's worked. You know what
Okay.
I mean?
It's all yours, man.
Hi, my name's Ryan. I've been doing this for like 11 years, and I've done a lot of trial and error. And what I've learned, the basic is what I've learned is your status, because right now you're a slave. You got to change. You're a decedent. You're dead or lost at sea. That goes back to the Sedicate V Act of 1666, when the bubonic plague was going on and London fires were happening. It was easier for them to label everyone as decedent or dead. And then if you were alive, you come up and you tell them and they'll change your status. And it's still like that today. Everyone is labeled as a decedent. You got to change your status to non-decedent. And it changes a lot of things. Then when you go to court, it's a lot different. They listen to what you're saying. That, along with the 12 presumptions, is very powerful. And the executor letter. Kristen and I were driving in Columbus a few years ago, and we got pulled over, and they gave me 7 tickets. When I went to court, the judge, they gave me a public defender. I said, I don't want you to represent me. You know how we do it. But she was like, well, the judge isn't budging on this. He's not going to dismiss anything. He wants to do a trial right now. And I was like, well, tell him this. I said, tell him that I respectfully rebut all 12 presumptions of law, and tell him that that I'm a state citizen, and because I did my passport process and all that, and I told him to cease and desist. She goes in there and talks to him. When she comes back out, all of a sudden the judge is talking about he doesn't want to have anything to do with it, and he dismissed all 7 charges. Okay. Another time, after what I was talking about with changing your status to a non-decedent, that's one of Harry's processes. I did that process, and I was in Dayton, helping somebody with their case. I was sitting in front of the post office, and they're giving me a hard time at the post office, trying to tell me that it was going to take, 3 days to send a letter from where I was at to the courtroom, to the court that's next door to the post office. And I was like, it's not going to take 3 days. So I got on the phone, and I was talking to the post office on the phone. I was on hold to find out the truth. And while I was sitting there, I fell asleep because I've been up all night working on this case. Anyways, it was my girlfriend and I were sitting there. We both fell asleep. Well, we wake up to 20 cops surrounding the vehicle, and they said that someone called the police and said that we were overdosed on heroin in the car. When I wake up, I tell the cop, I'm like, obviously, I was like, I'm not on drugs. And he's like, well, I can see that you're not on drugs now. And I was like, okay, then bye. And he was like, well, I need to know who you are. I need to see your ID. And I was like, no, you don't. So went back and forth with that for a little while, and then I remembered that I just got my last green card from the certified mail for my non-decedent status. You know what I mean? So becoming a live process. So now I felt like, since I was a real man in their system, that I could give them my social security number, my name, and all that stuff. So I did, and now mind you, I had my license is suspended. I'm in the driver's seat, obviously driving. My girl, she had a warrant for child support or something, and neither one of us have a driver's license. They were giving us a hard time. There's literally 20 cops surrounding the vehicle, and when they ran my social security number, the cop goes, "Oh wait, they're all good. They're good. They checked out fine. You guys can go ahead and leave." And all the cops left immediately, and I drove away with a suspended license. So I know that becoming alive works. If you do it right, you got to do it all in order, and it changes things. Also, with the 1099-A, like we were saying before, you gotta, if you're gonna do it on the mail, if you're gonna mail it in, you have to get the forms from the IRS. So anybody that's trying to do that process to take care of child support, criminal cases, you can pay it. You can discharge your bills with that too. Like if you have a debt, anything on your credit report, you can discharge that. If you're doing it, you can do it online. You have to go to a third-party website, and you can do it online that way. But it limits the amount of characters that you can put in the description box on the form to 29 characters. So like it's 29 characters on the online form. And on if you're going to go ahead and print it out, well, you don't print it out. You would take the form, the triplicate with the carbon copy. You would put that in your printer as the paper, and print what you put on the boxes onto that paper. Like that's how you have to do it. It's kind of difficult to get a template that'll print it right in the boxes. You got to use 12 font got to be black ink. There's all kinds of things that you have to read the IRS instructions to know why it could get denied. You know what I mean? So just read the instructions and just ask questions. Make sure you do it right. Call Harry. I think his number. Call Derrick to get a hold of Harry. He'll be able to guide you through the 1099-A process. Right now, we've got some confirmed. It's worked for a lot of things, but we're trying to fine tune and perfect what exactly to put in all the boxes.
Can I add something?
Yes.
The thing that I didn't get to bring up that, so I know the OID, that is the form that is supposed to be used for bond over A. And they're supposed to be used in conjunction with one another. I know that much.
Yes.
Is true. But I'm feeling like the C, the one that we don't really address too much, that is the debt forgiveness. And being that we are the one, the principal itself, we are the one that is in the position of fiduciary trustee over the straw man, so we should be the ones discharging any debt. So I feel like that is the position we should take, is for us to cancel the debt.
Right. And let me explain this. You got the 1096, which is the cover sheet. And you got the 1099A. And the 1099 OID, like Kristen said, works together. It's directly relative to the birth certificate and all that. The original issue discount is what it stands for. And that is the bid bond type. It's like she said, the birth certificate is an open bond. Then you turn around, if you do the 1099B, that's for the performance bond, saying that you're going to perform. Now you've accepted performance within the contract, rather than asserting the beneficiary position, which is not required to perform in any way. And the 1099 process is just reclaiming what they call abandoned funds or abandoned property. So we're not worried about the 1099B. That's why we don't file that. But then it's a process, and so you have to let the 1099A and the 1099 OID go through its process. And then you file the 1099C upon its maturing of the previous bonds as the payment bond.
I would be very, very, very careful about messing with the 1099 OID. I know somebody personally that only filed one of them and did 5 years in the federal state penitentiary for a frickin' piece of paper. All right?
Right.
I'm saying we need to research it more, but I know that it is what connects to the bond.
And I can tell you this much. If you pay attention to trust and you understand that you're the beneficiary, and through the Power of Appointment Act of 1951, you appoint a trustee, and look, they're licensed by the licensor as a licensee to broker bonds and securities. They know what they're doing. So by you doing that and stepping in there, you now become the surety for your actions. So
Well, the straw man is always the surety.
Right. And I'll attest to firsthand experience on that. Like I said earlier, when I filed the 3949A on these people in the court, they turned around and filed a protection order out on them. And they renew it each year. It's been 4 years now. But comprehend the way those protection orders work is both ways. And it speaks specifically, and this is very important language, no third-party communications. If they're saying no third-party communications, and there's a third-party communication, we're not talking contract, we're talking trust. They are mentioning 3 parties. Okay? Recognize everything they do must be through third party. They are, in fact, in their contract, constructing a trust. Every one of them is being done in fraud, whether they know it or not. If you know it, it is your due diligence to give notice of legal responsibilities. Pure and simple.
Brother Derrick.
Why they filed that protection order.
yes, Joshua.
Joshua, go ahead.
May I have the floor for a few minutes, and may I have the screen to show a couple of schematics?
Absolutely. Please release the screen for Brother Joshua. And Joshua, always a pleasure.
I'm just trying to figure it out.
You just hit the end share button. It should be red, end share.
There's new share.
Now scroll down to...
Okay, I got it.
Okay, it's all yours, Brother Joshua, and greetings. And I'm always pleased to have you with us. And I would love, when you're finished, maybe to close us out in prayer this evening.
Very good. Very good. We can do. Now, what I have here is a schematic of the vital records and vital statistics in the United States and the process in which it goes through. And what you have, there was a brother who spoke about who's the informant. Well, what you have here is you have the process of where everything starts off. And it starts off with the prenatal OB, first of all. He's the outsider who goes into the system. And the mother, there is no father. It's only the mother.
States the father.
And the mother and everyone here in this process here is in a circle. Now the birth certificate breaks the circle. It breaks the circle and it goes into the state one. The state one goes into vital records office. So this is the schematics. And if you notice, the colors here are the colors for the monopoly money. You got your 5s, your 1s, your 20s, your 50s.
It's still on.
Okay. And this is the schematic of all what happens to the birth certificate. It goes to the vital records. From the vital records, it goes here, which is a broken line. And the broken line means dashes, black and green lines denote other, which is less common processes and payments, respectively. Someone have a question?
No, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So you have a process here that is really less common and payments, respectively. Okay. So it goes to the local registrar. Then it goes into what's called the birth certificate sale. Okay. From the vital records, it goes to the birth certificate sale. Now, this all starts where the money, you have to follow the money, they say. Well, they're following the money. You see the arrows coming this way. Now, why is it the money? Well, each one of these abbreviations are here in this schematic. And you have, forgive me?
Go ahead. Can we get everybody to mute out?
It reads payments by users to providers of vital records or vital statistics data are shown by the green lines with the, what looks to be like dollar signs. Okay, the payments. Now, the payment starts at the federal and state government level. States, okay? And it goes, the first payment or first junction where the money goes, or where the funds go, or where the credit is created, goes to the EVVE, which is the electronic verification of vital events. It goes there. From the vital events, it goes right here into the state health department. Now this green line here is less common processes and payments. Now notice it follows everywhere. It follows from the EBRS, which is the electronic birth registration system. It goes directly to the EAB or the SSA, the Social Security Administration. So it goes from here to the SSA. say. So this is the schematic for the birth certificate record. This is, you can follow the process. It's not very hard. It's difficult in the sense of comprehending it, but the offices are there. All of the offices are here. And this is for the birth record. This is for the birth record. Now, where's the informant? Well, remember that Messiah is known to be the firstborn from the dead. Now you've got the schematic for the current death registration process for the state vital records jurisdiction. Well, look at here. The family or informant. Informant is in the current death registration system. So if you have an informant on a birth record, guess what? It's not a birth record. It's a funeral record. Now this is the process for the for the death record. Much more complicated. Been doing this for about 3 months now and haven't got all the pieces together yet. But I can tell you it's one of the best puzzles I have ever confronted. Both for communicating with the people that you need to communicate with and for the process that it goes through in order for you to get to the top of the thing instead of the bottom of the thing. So I just wanted to put that in there. This is my 2 cents. I love your brother Derrick. I love all the brothers and sisters here. And I just thought I'd bring this to the floor. And this document will go into the chat for everyone to have, freely given. And it's always been given to us. So that's my 2 cents. Any questions?
No, I really appreciate it, man. And as always, it's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure to have you on with us. We're always blessed to have you join us. And I'd ask you to close us out in prayer this evening. I know it's dinner time for us. We've been at this for over 5 hours. And it seems like a perfect way to end this here meeting and bring it to a close with our brothers and sisters. And I would just ask maybe if you would end in a good prayer for us all.
Stand by. I'd like to. There's a prayer that I'd like to extend, and it's. And I thank you so much for the opportunity.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Abba Father, we thank you for bringing us together once again this evening. Inspire us to make worthy, sound decisions and direct us towards the attainment of our goals. We pray that you would bless and protect all of us and our family members as we leave this gathering. Guide us on the path to unity and harmony. Abba Father, we ask by and through Messiah Yeshua and set apart spirit, let one's guiding light guide brothers, all the brothers and sisters here, and grant us full protection by one's grace and mercy. And we ask all this by and through your precious name, Yeshua. And all the brothers and sisters here say,
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. But thanks again, Brother Joshua. As always, every time I hear your voice, my soul fills with joy. And I really appreciate you ending us with a positive prayer. And we'll see you guys soon. And really appreciate everybody's participation and everybody being humble and bringing forward their trials and tribulations to help our fellow brothers and sisters ascend to the mind.
And thanks again, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you, Derek, for doing this. Can we wait till Brother Yeshua puts up that link to the document he was just?
You bet.
Stand by. Stand by. It's coming. I'm gonna put it right here on the documents here to everyone. We're gonna go here, and we're gonna put it right in here. It should go. Come on, come on, come on. Hey, Derek.
Yes.
Hey, this is Matthew.
Hey, Brother Matthew, how are you?
Cuddles. Bill, I believe Bill has the link for the 1099A on the IRS website.
Okay.
They've updated it because he was sharing that a couple of months ago with everybody on the Skype room.
All right.
For some reason or another, it's not coming up, and let me see if I can find the link to the document.
Or if you want to, you've got me on Facebook, don't you, brother?
I believe I do.
Send it to me.
And I got Derricks too. So
just send it to one of us in Messenger, and you guys can know how to connect to us on Facebook.
Right.
I could try to find the vital records and vital statistics and the link where I got this document at, but if it's better for time's sake, everybody who has Brother Eric or email address or whatever, or if Brother wants to send it out to everyone, he's free to do that. So I'll send it to Brother Derrick and shortly, and Brother Derrick can send it out.
I will place it if it's not an issue, Joshua, on my Facebook wall to expedite the process. But again, I would ask your advice and your wisdom on posting it in such a public forum.
It is all in your hands. I give, and you wish to do that, and it's in freely given, brother.
All right. Well, thank you, Brother Joshua. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and end this. It's time for us to go nourish our bodies with a little bit of substance as far as food. I appreciate you all for joining. And again, none of this is possible without each and every one of you. And thanks again, Brother Joshua, and everybody else who participated. Thank you very much.
Thank you, brother.
God bless.
Good night, guys.